From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
What's up?
We are live. We can talk over the music, the intro.
Yes.
Okay, I always forget about that.
Actually, you're supposed to.
Hey, everybody.
That's what professionals do, okay?
See how professional we are. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Carrie Smith.
Giving you all late-breaking news, updates of the past week, telling you what happened on Friday, Saturday, and early morning Sunday, because that's where the media likes to muddy the waters and cause some problems. Incredible news this week, all week long. I know we say it every show, but I'm telling you, we will not get everything in on the show.
Hey, let's have 3 hours of lightning round.
That is exactly what it would be.
Let's just do it, man. Let's do it. Why not? Anyway.
So if this is the first time you've been on a show, this is Military Veteran Talk Radio. I am Brian Smith. I was in the 90s. I was in the Air Force. My cousin Carrie, in the 90s, was in the Marine Corps. And we've been doing this on and off for we've been talking about politics for probably about 10 to 15 years.
Seems like it, yeah.
We started the show because there was nothing left. We wanted to document the demise of America and Obama taking us down the drain and whatnot. And so Donald Trump arrives, and now...
Whoa, we got things falling apart here.
Now we got new hope. We got true hope. So that's what's happening this week, that a lot of that stuff is being exposed. You got everything from the Iran deal that Obama was trying to make with the banks. We'll get into that. Kim Jong-un and the summit that Donald Trump is going to, overshadowed. Was it overshadowed by soy boy Trudeau? I don't know. And then we get some incredible news. Nancy Pelosi is in complete meltdown. DNC in a internal civil war while the primaries held last week on Tuesday in California and elsewhere. No blue wave. Kind of a fizzle, man.
Yeah, it's hard to. I don't know how much time we're going to spend on that, but
not much.
You might have to explain to me what the deal is. It's a primary. I mean, is there a way to discover whether or not there's a blue or red wave when you got people who are Democrats? They're going to vote between Democrat A or Democrat B, or in some cases C, D, E, F, G, down the line. Likewise, Republicans voting down the line for Republicans. So is it that turnout makes a difference? And wouldn't you also consider that in some locations a Democrat might not be challenged? There might be one guy on the ballot for them to vote for, and so don't even show up.
Well, there's a great video clip I'll get to a little bit later on, but they're saying that people aren't voting with their pocketbooks this time around. They're voting with their values.
Okay.
Even in the Democrat Party, Democrat voters are torn from their progressive leftist and wanting to be more centrist, more value-oriented, and the Democrat Party is not representing them.
I would still ask them what their values are. I wouldn't just let them say, I'm a values voter. I have values. I'm going to vote my values. I would be like, okay, now we need to stop right there.
Just bake the damn cake.
There you go. I think Brian just summed it up nicely there.
That was breaking news this week.
How much more stuff is falling apart?
Yeah,
here?
we got it. It's all.
Oh my God! You know what it is?
These are getting old.
It's the chitlins.
Chitlins.
It's the chitlins.
No, this week Supreme Court ruled in favor of the baker not to have to bake a cake.
Was that this week? I feel like it was a long time ago. Was it like Monday?
I read the article
probably
this
Monday.
week. I don't know.
No, you're probably right. It probably. Things are going so fast that when things happen on Monday or sometimes Sunday night after our previous show has already been in the can recorded, a lot of times the following Sunday rolls around, and I thought it was weeks ago that these things happen.
Right. It's not. It's not.
Right.
So if you're watching us live on either on Vimeo.com/SmithRadio or our website, smithradio.com. The show is live there as well.
Cool.
And on Periscope, if you like Periscope, we will be there too. I can't make excuses for the issues on Periscope whatsoever.
Reply to my link on Twitter if you'd like me to start writing articles regularly on the smithradio.info. Is it smithradio.info?
Yeah, I'd love for you to write articles on a regular basis. That would be awesome. And if you want to follow us right here underneath us, if you're watching us on video, at Brian P. Smith, that's me on Twitter, and Carrie has the at Smith, SMYTH Radio on Twitter as well. Follow us there. There's a lot of people, a lot of activity, a lot of people tweeting out different messages. Thank you, Sam, for shooting the video to us that we're going to use on the show today, my Donald Trump.
Now, he didn't record the video.
No, I'm not saying. See,
it's just the way it came off,
Did it sound like that? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I mean, he found a video on the interwebs, and he sent me the link.
I'm not saying your English is bad. It very well could be that my English is so bad that when you say proper English, I'm just interpreting it wrong. And I'm not kidding about that.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I just don't want you to take it personally because it could be my problem.
Right. So big shout out this week, folks. Big shout out this week. My Donald Trump's birthday, June 14th.
Should we sing?
Exactly 21 days before my birthday. That's how I remember it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, did I say 27 days before my birthday?
Yeah. See, you just
which is on the 21st.
You just doxed yourself.
Oh,
you just
they're not supposed to know that?
Well, when you know somebody's birthday, you're that much closer to stealing their entire identity. Just FYI.
Well, I fake it all the time. I don't know. Man. Anyways, folks.
Just FYI, Brian was born in 2006. Gosh. Wow.
I work with somebody that was born in 2000.
Yeah.
What?
We're getting a little older.
Oh, gee. So we got the Donald Trump G7 summit that really should have been a G6, my man. Skipping out on the global warming. We got more communism in the news. California completely. If you've watched my scopes this week, you know I've been blasting California for a long time for all this crazy nonsense they're doing. And now it has come to a point.
Well,
people are going to be leaving. Communism.
Brian takes it personally because he actually lived there for 10 years, which I think offers a kind of insight that you're not going to hear in a lot of other places. You have to have lived there and be able to tell you from firsthand experience.
Yeah, it was a battle for sure. So that Nancy Pelosi, I said she goes on a hate rant tour. She has a new nickname, Negative Nancy. Negative Nancy.
Okay.
Yep, she got a new nickname.
Did she name herself that?
No, they gave it to her. Incredible, great news about the economy this week. Every week it's been incredible, great news about the economy. We've got some really, really big things to talk to you about with that, as well as the IG report that has not come out yet, but is slated to come out soon. The leak that happened this week about James Comey and what the IG report said, what does that mean? Is that even real? Is that even true? Then we got James Ray Wolfe. I imagine that's how you pronounce it correctly. W-O-L-F-E, not
right.
Wolfie.
No, it's Wolf.
Okay. James A. Wolfe indicted for everybody saying that he gave classified information. That's what he's been. No, he's been indicted for lying to the FBI.
So technically, yes. But he lied about leaking.
No, he lied about the girl he was.
Well, he was courting a young woman who was in the media.
She's in her 20s and he was in his 50s?
Well,
Someone got a daddy complex?
The girl or?
Well, I'm not judging him. I don't know if it's daddy complex, folks. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Kind of creepy. And then we got a bunch of different clips on that as well. Fake Jake Tapper. I don't know if I'll play him, but I've got a couple of clips of him. He tries to compare the Obama spying thing to, or this Wolf thing. Tries to compare it to Cheryl Atkinson.
Okay.
The reporter that was spied on by Obama. We'll get into that, as well as like I said, the $1 billion deal heard around the world. I don't know how much more treasonous Obama could possibly become. He's not even in office. He's not in office anymore, and we're still finding more dirt that he had left behind. And the title of the show, it's getting harder to hate Trump. I'm just telling you, man.
Well, it's looking more nonsensical is a word I love to use all the time. You got to hate America to hate Trump at this point, right?
At this point, absolutely, because it is just unbelievable the things that are happening. I'm talking world. Oh, check this out! I got this guy that I work with. I call it Gen Xer. He's a baby boomer, a lot liberal.
He's not the one I shamed off of social media, is it?
No. And
really
once again, Scott. my millennial. Oh!
Your millennial's name is Scott?
No!
No, it's not Scott. Okay, so hashtag not Scott.
Anyway, so the Gen Xer dude, he's a hardcore lib, and he can't, he's insane with it, and he hates Trump, hates religion, hates Trump, hates everything. And on Friday, I had to give him the good breaking news. You hear about the good breaking news? I got him and his girlfriend together, and I said, hey, it's getting harder to hate Trump. I'm not trying to be political, but Trump just said he might drop the federal ban on weed.
Oh, and he would be happy about that.
He was ecstatic. Well, he wasn't. He didn't show it in his face.
Okay.
He wasn't angry.
He gave you his poker face.
Yeah, he wasn't angry, but he wasn't jubilant. His girlfriend, on the other hand, looked at him and I and said, that's fantastic. I love weed.
Well, I definitely do not smoke weed.
I don't
but
either.
I will tell you this, and I don't plan on it either, but I will tell you this. The war on drugs has been an epic failure. I understand from back in the look, we were alive back in the Reagan administration, and you had Nancy Reagan, who did her Just Say No campaign, which was actually extremely effective, which was great. You know, we had we cleaned that up, which is good. But you know, there's just, it's not a very libertarian. It's almost like an authoritarian position to make the government crack down on everybody, you know, American citizens, on things that generally don't really harm other people. Now, I will admit the opioid crisis is definitely something that's a major problem, because I had $2,500 worth of stuff stolen from my house a couple years ago because some guy down the street just totally got cracked out on on opiates and started stealing from everybody. I was one of like 20 victims of his crime spree. And so that's obviously something that should be addressed.
And I got a good buddy, good friend that's struggling, battling with opioids. Mm-hmm. Pastor at church today said that he's buried 2 people this week due to opioids.
Wow. And of course, we know somebody that died several years ago. Like, he's one of the early ones to die from it. But he was into drugs for years and years, even before the opioid crisis started. Oh, so he graduated to that drug when it came along. So it doesn't really surprise me that he died before we even knew there was an opioid crisis.
Did you tell me the story about San Francisco and the fish being poisoned?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember which city it was, but yeah. So it turns out that they wanted to
crack down on a company, and they were looking at the water.
Yeah, they
didn't fish.
Yeah, it was actually somebody was subbing on either Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity.
Okay,
and they were talking about regulations and how it was. It's just killing business. It's killing jobs. It's just really anti-free market capitalism to have, such horrible, oppressive for business regulations. And the EPA, as you know, is a favorite of socialists, of liberals, Democrats, if you will.
Yes.
And so they have been heavily cracking down on companies because big companies, big business, free market capitalism is the enemy of the same people who are big friends of the EPA. And so they just love cracking down on these companies. And one of the ways they do it is to say, you cannot open said business because you're going to pollute the area. And it turns out that the same people who are trying to crack down on these businesses for polluting the waters that could poison our fish, poison the water, whatever, put pollutants in it, have nothing to say about the fact that these same fish actually have dangerous levels of opioids in the fish that you could possibly consume, because the homeless people who are the volume there you go. The homeless people who are strung out on drugs are defecating in the streets, and the runoff from the rain is making its way to the waterways, effectively poisoning the fish. So.
And then people are trying to may or may not eat those fish. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, if you are in California, especially LA, and the big sign that says, do not eat the fish, they're contaminated. And it says
it's not from the company.
And it says it in many different languages, yet you still see folks from the Far East, if you will, fishing, filleting, and getting ready to cook them up right there on the pier.
Yeah, and it's not like it's because companies are pumping all kinds of chemicals into this waterway. No, it's because the runoff from the rain is picking up all the human feces from the streets, and it's not the feces that's poisoning the fish. It is the chemicals that are in the feces that is caused by the opioid crisis.
And when we talk about this in San Francisco, just freely allowing anybody to do whatever they want, I mean, if people want to do drugs, that's fine. Okay, there's got to be a limit to certain things that they can be acceptable. But we've got drug addicts and needles on the streets of San Francisco. People deucing everywhere so bad that there's an app for your phone called the Poop app.
Right.
Where you can drop a pin where somebody dropped a deuce.
Oh, they should call it dropping a deuce instead of dropping a pin.
Yeah.
Drop a deuce right where you find it.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
And this was something I dealt with in Long Beach, out in Long Beach, California.
So it was a problem way back then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our first apartment in Long Beach, California, because homelessness is accepted. It's acceptable.
That's the problem.
Government food stamps, government money, all kinds of government housing. It's all acceptable, and things go crazy. And if you heard the beginning of the show, The Clash, that's kind of what that punk era was about, where in England, the government was giving housing and money, and Sid Vicious, as a kid, was doing heroin with his mom because she was in government housing, and it's all a nightmare. It's a mess when it's given out like this free stuff.
Yeah, and I would say that it's important that we have some clarity. You know, if you throw out a laundry list of all kinds of problems that a society is having, I think it's important to prioritize and figure out which ones are the things the problems you should be attacking, and not just kind of throwing it all out there and trying to come up with a one-size-fits-all solution for all the problems. I would say in a libertarian society, a society with actual real freedom, I think we need to just educate people on the dangers of drugs, try to curb sales and the import of the drugs if you can, but not so much sending people to prison for life like we had some pardons happen this week too.
Oh, Donald Trump pardoned another woman who happens to be.
She was going to spend life in prison because of I guess it would be trafficking, because she was like a middleman. She literally just was given a job, and it turns out that the feds were like, these are the people that need to spend the rest of their life in prison, when really she was just desperate for money. She had no way to get any other kind of money, and she was desperate, and so she took this middleman job, and it ended up getting her life in prison for the most part, or effectively life. And Kim Kardashian decided we need to work on getting this nice woman who was, this really a model citizen inmate, I guess, if you will.
Alice Johnson, she thanks Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and so Kim Kardashian got the attention of Donald Trump, and so she got her sentence commuted, so that's good, and now she's free. But yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that we're sending people to prison on drug-related charges like that, because, like I said, I'm just a libertarian, and I think, like the person that stole all that stuff from me, I think that he should get a hard sentence for stealing all that stuff. And maybe he can have some time to clean up and assess his life right. Decisions and stuff like that. But I'm not going to blame the drugs for him stealing all my stuff. Would he have done it if he didn't get on the drugs? Sure. But, you got to make an example out of that person. But anyway.
Right. And so Alice Johnson thanks Jesus Christ and Donald J. Trump. After serving, she has completed 22 years in prison.
That's a long time. I didn't realize she was gone that long.
Right. Donald Trump tweeted out, "Have a wonderful life."
There you go. I mean, I'm sure she will.
Yes.
And by the way, they interviewed her since, and she has basically thanked the heck out of Trump.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's awesome. Also, Dinesh D'Souza, let the crime fit the situation, and for Dinesh D'Souza to be a felon for the rest of his life, not be allowed to vote, not be allowed to own a gun. I mean, come to find out, the FBI had him on a conservative watch list.
That was clearly he was a political prisoner.
Right. So Donald Trump commuted him complete pardon.
It was a complete pardon.
Yeah, complete pardon.
So he will have all of his rights back, which, by the way, I'm not really for that either. I'm going straight up full-blown libertarian on you today. I believe that when you do your time for the crime, then you get a fresh start. And obviously, if you do crimes after if you're a multiple offender or whatever, you should get a lot longer sentence because you obviously didn't learn your lesson. But, if you do, let's say, a crime, first offense, whatever, even if it's a felony, you do your time, and when you're done, you served your time, and then you get your right to vote and right to bear arms. And all. I find it seems a little hypocritical to me to have a Second Amendment that says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless you're a felon. I don't think it said that. I don't think it said that. In fact, arguments have been made that if you're an illegal alien, you're still, as long as you're on U.S. soil, right, you are protected by the Bill of Rights. And if you want to make that argument, then what are we talking about? If you've committed a felony, you've been tried, convicted, you went to prison, you served the full time, and then you get out because you're done serving that time, how in the world does the Second Amendment not apply to you anymore? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
I mean, you don't serve a life sentence. It's like my friend that got the felony, which, by the way, I need to write a letter. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
We need help.
Well,
we need
it turns
help
out
for a good friend.
Yeah. So you guys have been listening to me for a long time. Will have heard this story before. I want to bring it up right now, and I actually feel like an idiot for not having already written this letter and already sent it off. Apparently, this week, Donald Trump reacted to the NFL kneelers.
Yes.
By saying that, why don't you come to the White House? I don't know if he said come to the White House, but he said, why don't you tell me who needs to have or who was treated unfairly by the justice system, by the legal system, whatever you want to call it, and see who may need to be pardoned. And I'll look at it. Well, if you guys have been listening to us for a long time, you will have heard the story about my good friend, and I won't name his name because I've never told him that I've talked about him on the show before. But he has a felony a long time ago. He has 5 boys. The oldest one, I think, just graduated. All the rest of them go all the way down to grade school. I think actually the one youngest is still in grade school. I think that he has twins who are,
right.
Yeah, and they are just entering junior high, I think. And so he's got all these kids. They all wrestle, and I've been coaching them in wrestling for a long time, ever since like first grade, I think. And he's been forced to be a house husband while his mom, not his mom, his wife, the mother of the kids that I coach wrestling, she goes out and works her butt off to provide for the 5 children plus the husband, while he has to largely be a house husband, and he wants to go out and work. The guy's an athlete.
Right.
He could go out there and do a lot of things, but very, very, very few job opportunities, almost none if you have a felony on your record. And even if you do get a job, which you can get a job. It's just very low paying, very, very little chance of climbing any kind of a ladder,
right,
corporate ladder or whatever, to work your way up.
Even in machine shops that I've worked in the past that were really rough,
mm-hmm.
if you got a felony, probably couldn't get in.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's the big shame of it. So here's what happened to him. When his second son was very, very young, and his oldest son was couple, I don't know, first grade, something like that. He was giving them both a bath. Giving them both a bath. And these kids, all 5 of them, are very mischievous. They're wild.
They're boys,
crazy.
though, right?
They're all boys.
Yeah, how could you not be?
They're all crazy. They're
right.
all, yeah, and they're just really, really wild kids, which made them awesome wrestlers. They're some of the best wrestlers I've ever coached. But they fight each other. They play hard and they wrestle hard. Everything, right? So anyway, the 2 youngest, the other 3 were not even born yet. He walks away for a minute to do something, grab something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what the reason was that he walked away. But when he walked away, the oldest started messing with the knobs. And the youngest was too young to really know what was going on. But he's playing they're all they're taking the bath together. And he ends up getting scalded. So
that's brutal.
Yeah. So he rushes him to the hospital. And some child welfare worker there said, actually, it was the doctor. The doctor went to child welfare, who have their own office in the hospital, and said,
and their own agenda.
We have a scalded child, and the father. I don't know. He's got dreads. He's a little sketchy looking. I want you to take a look at this and just verify for me that this isn't consistent with punishing a kid for child abuse.
Child abuse, yeah.
With scalding, because we've seen this before. And basically they called the cops in and basically said, we think that you scalded this kid for punishment. And, of course, I know this dad really well. I actually hired him for a while, and so I got to know him very, very well. All these years coaching his kids. And, I mean, the guy is – he's not one to do something like that at all.
Did you say that one of the sons, now that he's grown up, either remembers that or does anybody
Well, the oldest
remember?
son is, gosh, I think he just graduated. So he's only like 19 now.
Right.
But anyway, I should probably I just am having this conversation with the dad. I never really went to go talk to the kids, but it'd be interesting to see what the oldest son has to say about it. Now that he's an adult, I guess wouldn't be inappropriate for me to go and ask him.
Yeah, but the whole thing of it is that there's a system in place to accidentally throw somebody in prison.
Yeah, well, to sum up the story, the kids were too young to testify on their father's behalf, and in fact, they may have even coerced them to testify or to say something that may lead them to believe that there was. Now, the youngest one that got scalded, he was too young to say anything.
Right.
So
probably didn't even speak.
No, he was not. Yeah. He was really young. So they basically said, "Listen, here's the deal," and he got a public defender.
That's the way you always get. You always get
his public,
pretenders.
and his public pretender said, "Wow, I looked at the scald burns, and clearly
you did."
You're looking at literally. This is what he said. He said, "All right, here's what the deal is, and you got to trust my professional opinion on this. You can either get 3 years solid in prison. You're going to get sentenced to 6 to 10. Good conduct in prison. You'll get out in 3. You'll be able to see your kids after 3 years. Or if you plead guilty, you get the felony." And you'll get time served, and you get to go about your way. And he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And then he had to. He was freaked out about it.
Think about that. What do you do?
He was totally freaked out. He was professing his innocence, but the public pretender said, "Listen, I've been down this road before. You did not want to spend 3 years in
See, and I got
prison."
I got an axe with all you first-year lawyers that pass the bar and get a job as a public pretender.
Job.
And you think you know. You don't know. I'm just saying, man.
They're a bunch of morons. So anyway, he was scared to death. He thought, I mean, you're pretty much being told that you're guaranteed – the deal's already been made, right, that you are guaranteed to walk out of here a free man, out of this courtroom, a free man, if you just plead guilty. Or you can roll the dice, and my expert opinion is, and this is the
if you
lawyer.
if you lose.
Yeah, well, no, his expert opinion was you're not going to win this.
Ugh.
He flat out told him, he said, I really don't think it's a good enough risk to take, whatever. So anyway, he ends up walking out, but he was very young, and he's 5 kids, and he still looks kind of young. He's like our age.
Oh, man.
So anyway, fast forward all these years later, if he had known that this felony was going to pretty much ruin his life for the most part.
Probably should have taken 3 years.
Well, no, he should have,
or maybe should have fought it.
Yeah, fought it and got off. But then again, his public pretender would have went to the judge and said, "Your Honor, I can't say that he didn't do it, but I mean, that's what kind of defense he's got, right?
And he gets up, the public pretender gets up there, ladies and gentlemen of the supposed jury.
It wouldn't even be that good. He'd be like, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I know that this looks bad.
It looks bad to me, too.
And I agree.
It makes me upset. My stomach is queasy about it. I've got children. This is just awful.
And I wouldn't do it to my children. But you got to understand, like, this is what kind of defense he would get. Of course he's looking at 3 years. You know why? Because that defender was terrible. So, fast forward. He actually tried to do there was a guy, lawyer, who started a national campaign. Gosh, I wish I remember the name of it. It was a way for people who were wrongly convicted to get their thing overturned, their verdict overturned. And he went to go apply for it, and he just broke down and started crying and walked away from it because he found out that the guy who founded that organization was the prosecutor that gave him his felony.
Oh,
the same guy. Yeah, so he walked away damn near. He said he was in tears. So I feel like I got to write a letter.
Got to write a letter to Trump.
Man.
Trump, holler.
Here's the thing. He's a good friend of mine. I'm a Marine Corps veteran status right here, and you're over there asking NFL players to give you names of people who are treated unfairly? People, please share this video. Try to get the word to Trump that my friend, and I'll disclose his name when I feel like
when Trump needs to know.
Yeah, I'll send it to Trump. I mean, this guy totally needs to be pardoned completely. He was so unfairly treated here. And by the way, probably about 15 years ago this happened, maybe 16, 17 years ago that this happened. He's been the greatest, nicest, most placid father ever. If he had anger management issues where he felt the need, and by the way, you know what? One of the reasons why he said his kids are so out of control, he's scared to death to do any discipline.
Can you imagine?
He's scared to death.
Can you imagine having two strikes?
He can't be a good father. That in his mind, he feels like he can't do the kind of discipline that a father should have because he's scared to death.
I mean, sometimes you need to spank them on the butt a little bit, and if they pull your kid behind the curtain and say, "Hey, does he spank you to make you start crying?"
They're all wrestlers, and by the way, the dad actually dabbled around in some MMA. He didn't grow up on MMA. He was fascinated by it and actually went and trained to get in shape. And then I don't know if I think he fought in one or two fights, and then also entered the Tournament of Champions in Columbus, and it kind of dislocated his shoulder, and he was done after that. But they probably, the whole family's probably rolling around in the living room floor, trying to pin each other. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, our great-grandfather's brother lost an eyeball in boxing.
Yeah, I just found that out this week, or last week, Memorial Day.
Wore a glass eye.
Did he have a glass eye?
That's what I was told.
Wow. But he was in boxing. So anyway.
Have you ever heard of somebody losing an eye in boxing?
Well, this would have been turn of the century. So.
Doctor probably said, "Oh, that swelling ain't coming down unless we get that eyeball out."
Well, I don't know. Doctors back then were not as trusted as they are today. Today, if you're told that something needs to come out. Did you hear about the study with the tonsils?
I was under the impression that it was a farce and that you shouldn't be taking them out.
Well, when my mother was a child,
my brother had them taken out.
Yeah. So when baby boomers were children, they were pulling out tonsils left and right like you wouldn't believe. And then at some point, probably in the 80s, they stopped doing that, except in extreme cases where you were getting swelling so bad and so often that they were just like, you know what, you're probably better to take them out.
And I think my brother's came out somewhere around 1980.
Yeah, it was right around the early 80s when they decided no, because they wanted to take my tonsils out, and the doctor was like, let's just hold off. Because they've been told, hey, you guys, you quacks need to knock this off. Well, because they said, these things are in our body for a reason. God doesn't make mistakes, right?
No.
So they're in our body for a reason. And so they decided, we better not mess around with Mother Nature. So they stopped doing it, except in extreme cases. Well, a study came out this week saying that people who have had their tonsils removed have an increased rate of sicknesses such as colds and stuff like that. Just general, little, minor sicknesses like colds and flus and whatnot. So there's that.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, the doctors were just like, yeah, man,
whatever. Pull it.
I can do what? I can get that much money for what?
Pull it.
Yep.
Ah, yikes.
We call that R&R in the Marine Corps when we remove and replace.
Oh, no.
But in the case of doctors, although they do like to replace knees now and hips and ankles.
Right.
Knee replacement.
There's a
R&R, baby.
There's a machine shop company that I almost took a job with that made knees and hip replacements, but it's too far away. Not enough money. Anyway, so what's going on? Why is it so hard to hate Trump? It is very difficult to hate Trump right now.
Why? I mean, everybody hates him, right?
Yeah.
No?
Well, he's doing world peace and stuff, man. He's like,
yeah, well, did you hear what Bill Maher said?
No, I don't listen to that.
Turns out
SOB.
Bill Maher said that we need the economy to crash, and we should be rooting for the economy to crash because that's the only way we're going to get rid of Trump. So we need to be rooting for crashing the economy.
Okay. Think about that just for 1 second. Just think about that for 1 second. So you are crediting Trump for a boom economy.
Ooh, interesting.
So you are truly giving Trump, you're saying that because the economy is booming,
yeah,
and Trump is president, and even CNN said he's residing over a good economy. He's residing over a good economy. No, man. And we talked about this before. We talked about everything that Donald Trump has done since being put into office is in stark contrast to Barack Obama. It's in contrast to any president I've ever known.
In his defense, he said, I set him up nicely.
And he did say he was going to fundamentally transform America.
Well, I will say that in all seriousness, though, we needed Barack Obama in order to get Trump.
True that.
We absolutely needed it because Trump was totally unelectable for my entire lifetime. Flat out. If you look at all the things that they dug up on him and tried to use to defeat him in the 2016 election, almost all of it was death to any other candidate.
And Democrats knew it. They knew it. Not only that, but then the Russia-Trump collusion thing.
Well, that was after the election. A lot of people don't remember that.
That was we did do that in December, November.
It was after the election.
November 8th.
Russiagate happened because, and when I mean happen, I mean it was made up and presented to the public by the Democrats because they failed to get Hillary elected.
Major fail.
As a matter of fact, the dossier was published on January 10th of 2017. BuzzFeed, January 10th.
Right. And our show we did 2016, December 11th.
Yep.
Russia. If you Google it, if you don't want to search for it, if you just Google Smith Radio, Russia.
It'll show up?
It's the first thing that shows up.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's the easiest way to find it then. Because I'm always like, go to Spreaker, okay? And by the way, back then,
scroll back.
Our shows were audio only back then, so it'd be like a radio show. And it's well worth it because it ages beautifully. Everything we said in that show was 110% correct. Even today, when you listen to it, you're like, wow, I should have been listening to Smith Radio this whole time because they are dead on accurate. So anyway,
we can get into the leak this week that happened. This all has to do with the Russia, and I'm telling you, folks, here let me play this flashback. This is flashback of Jake Tapper about Donald Trump wiretap, and you remember Donald Trump claimed that Obama had tapped his wires.
Right.
I had my wires tapped. And so
they were pulling a legal thing there, a legal maneuver where like if I were to, they use definitions of words, they're like, wait a minute, you mean there were wires that were tapped into? That like the physical wires? Because if you can't show me physical wires with the insulation scraped off and and a new wire tapped into it,
right,
with a tag on it that says installed by FBI,
right,
then yeah, you've got nothing.
So this
is literally what they were trying to argue.
So this clip was before James Comey's firing, and this is just how dishonest, how awful, how wretched CNN, the media, has just gone so bad. And this is fake Jake trying to...
Fake Tapper is how I like to refer to him.
Fake Tapper trying to say that...
What's up?
Is that the right...
I don't know. Just play it.
Okay. Fake Jake Tapper. Play it.
We noticed some numbers that alarmed us today. They appeared in an ABC News Washington Post poll showing a shockingly high percentage of Americans believe President Obama intentionally spied on Donald Trump and members of his campaign. This all began, of course, on March 4th, after a long, frustrating week for the president, at the end of which he suddenly and seemingly out of nowhere began a succession of tweets that started with, quote, "Terrible. Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism." Now, if McCarthyism is defined as making wild accusations without any evidence, the only thing that was McCarthyism were the president's tweets.
Okay, so he shows a picture of Donald Trump.
They're doing the reversal.
As a young Donald Trump with a guy who does look, I mean, he looks a little scared.
He looks a little scary, yeah, sure.
That's the family lawyer.
Okay.
That's what media tries to do. They try to scare you into thinking that somebody's image of them is probably a bad person. Why else would they put up this picture?
Brian, you want me to tell you something?
What's that?
I thought that was Joseph McCarthy because in context of what he was saying, I thought that he was showing a picture of Donald Trump sitting next to Joseph McCarthy.
No, that's the family lawyer from back in the day.
So there's your fake news right there. The fact that they did that is, because I can't remember exactly what Joseph McCarthy looks like.
No, but I remember this guy.
Well, it's black and white, too.
You can't forget this guy.
Look at Donald Trump there. He looks a lot younger than he looks today, but not that young. Why is this image black and white? Is that the only version they could find? It says Getty Images. Is this only available in black and white?
I don't know the family image. I don't know.
I feel like they put it in black and white to make you think that this was taken of Donald Trump sitting next to Joseph McCarthy.
During the McCarthy era.
Yeah, during the 50s. Like literally. Oh my
This might be a 50s photo. I don't know, but that is the Trump family lawyer.
Wait, what? 50? He would have been a child.
He was born in 46, yeah.
Yeah, he would have been a child.
Same year as my mother.
And your mother, yeah. I mean, your mother would have been a child during the McCarthy era.
Oh,
anyway.
I'm sure. Okay. So anyway, you have more fake Jake.
Wow.
Any evidence, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan?
Seen any evidence that this has occurred? The Intelligence Committee has not seen evidence that this has occurred.
How about you, FBI Director James Comey?
Oh, wow.
I have no information that supports those tweets.
Well, we know
have
why he
looked
said that.
carefully inside the
Hold on a second. Hold on. We know why Comey said that. Comey said we have no evidence that happened. He was referring to a question that asked him, were there physical wires where the insulation scraped off and where you wrap the copper around and you tape it and you splice it on there and then you solder it with a soldering gun and then you put a tag on it that says tapped by and inspected by Agent 37997 FBI.
Somebody's got to sign, just like when we were working on aircraft. Once it's done, you got to get somebody to sign off on that.
What do you call it? CDI, collateral duty inspector. The CDI has to come and visual it, test it, make sure it's tight, everything's good. And so I'm not kidding. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the long version of Comey's testimony in front of Congress. He did not lie when he said that because the question was worded in a way where he was asked if physical wires were.
He said, "I've got no evidence of that. I don't have any. I don't."
So he was not lying, but it didn't answer my question. Were they spying on him? And the answer to that is yes. Of course, they would say no to that too, and they would say, "Well, they were informants. Informants were not spies. We don't call them spies."
I watched a great one with the great one, Mark Levin, who was on Hannity's show, and they debated. They were talking about spy and informant.
Uh-huh.
The only difference between a spy and an informant, the only difference is how they were approached. If you approach a man on the street or an agent on the street and said, hey, man, go get a job at the Trump Tower, get a job there, and when you're there, give us information about what's going on.
Okay.
That's a spy. An informant is you walking around at a Trump rally and you run into someone that says volunteer, a volunteer shirt on, and you say, hey,
can you give me some information?
You in this campaign pretty deep? And the guy said, yeah, why? I tell you what, I'll make it worth your while if you give me some information.
So an informant could also be paid by the FBI eventually, whereas a spy, you are literally employed.
That's his job.
That's his job. Okay,
right.
So hey, you're an FBI agent. We need you to go and get a real job with the Trump administration.
Right.
Okay.
A spy on him.
Gotcha.
Versus,
but by the way,
it's all
like
information though.
It sounds like they were spies, not informants. I think they're literally lying to us when they say, they're not spies, they're informants. They're just informants.
Because spies sound so awful.
That's because they are awful. I mean, not spies, the FBI for doing it.
Okay, that's the fake Jake.
That would have seemingly been that, except that the president and his team kept pushing ways to try to make this evidence-free claim somewhere sort of possibly in the neighborhood of almost not entirely false. Now, they failed, but they muddied the waters quite a bit. And now, here are the shocking numbers from today. 32% of the public thinks President Obama intentionally spied on Donald Trump and members of his campaign, and 52% of Republicans believe this charge, a charge that there is literally no evidence to support. It is the definition of...
This is April 20.
Okay, because this isn't aged well.
No, this is bad.
This is America, and you can believe whatever you want to believe. 18% of the public says they've seen or been in the presence of a ghost.
He believes that.
Whatever.
But hold on a second. He says you can believe whatever you want to believe. He truly believes that because
his voice.
Well, his entire job, his success or failure hinges on whether or not the public believes whatever they want to believe. Yes. Seriously. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Jay.
Wow.
Sorry, it's just so much fun.
In a thriving democracy, truth matters and facts matter. We learned in the campaign that Donald Trump can be cavalier about facts and truth. We learned in his first 100 days that that's not going to change. Indeed, that some in the government and some of his friends in conservative media will even work to try to make his falsehoods seem true.
That's all I got on that idiot.
Just to let you, so the way he just describes something that could be construed as something I've said before, the old Texas sharpshooter.
Yes.
So he said that supporters work really hard to make falsehoods that Trump says seem to be true. And my theory of the Texas sharpshooter, which is Trump does something or something happens to Trump or whatever, and then his troops, his supporters like us, we support him, will rally around and try to make it sound like he expected that to happen, or he did that on purpose, or he said that on purpose, or what he said ends up being true after all, even though at first you're like, what? So that's different, though. Jake is accusing him of just flat out lying.
Right.
And then he's accusing us of lying about the lie to trick you into thinking that what was said was true when it's actually a lie. That's all false, and that's not the Texas sharpshooter. The Texas sharpshooter is kind of like, you trip and fall down a manhole, and when you get there, there's a pile of gold.
You fall down a what?
You trip and fall into a manhole.
What's a manhole?
Oh, sewer.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I don't know. Does anybody here not know what a manhole is? Or are you trying to, wow, this is supposed to be family friendly. Anyway, so, an example of this would be an extreme example where something really bad happens. So like tripping and falling down a manhole, and then when you get there's a pile of gold. And you're like, I meant to do that. I knew it was there, and that's why I did it.
That's why I fell down the manhole.
I dove down. What do you mean I tripped and fell? No.
It's on purpose.
I dove head first because I want to be the first one down there. Got the gold, baby. So anyway, but in a way, that's not being very fair or nice to what is now 2-3 years of Trump being in politics, because a lot of that seems to be tripping and falling down a manhole at first. And then it turns out he really did know about a pot of gold down there. And we're just like, that's why he jumped down that manhole. So in a way, it's weird. It's like we all rally around. And by the way, Texas sharpshooter is my analogy that I use. It's actually a debate fallacy where it comes from shooting at a barn randomly.
Or just shooting at a barn with a shotgun that puts
bullets everywhere.
150 bullet holes all over the whole side.
So you got bullet holes all over the side of a barn, and then somebody goes up to the barn with a can of red paint and paints bullseyes around every hole to make it look like they were all bullseye shots.
Look at that, man. It's amazing.
After the fact. That's called the Texas sharpshooter. And that's kind of the analogy that I thought was happening with Trump. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is wrong or lying or dishonest or anything like that. What I'm saying is that you need help to reach the top of anything. You look at the top of any field, and those people have almost unfair help. Almost unfair.
Right.
Where people are like, you know what? I'm talking people in the periphery, they're support staff. Somehow they're in a position
that never get the limelight, but you absolutely have to help them. They help you, and you absolutely have to have them.
Yeah.
And great leaders find people that fill voids,
right,
so that can rise to the top.
And in America, under the Trump administration or Trump candidacy at the time, where everybody really, really wanted to see him president, everybody was like, he meant to do that. It didn't matter. He could have did it on purpose. He could have did it on accident. It didn't matter. Everybody wanted to see him president so bad that it didn't matter whether we thought it was right or not, or whether it was good or not. We were going to make it good.
We even talked,
and that's not dishonesty.
We even talked about and brought up Bill that said, "I will always speak of Trump in a great line."
Bill Mitchell?
Yeah, Bill Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was his whole thing. Just everything, I will put the right spin on it to make it look good. Even up to even election night. Said he was talking people off the ledge.
Right. Well, Kerry Kellerman had to talk him off the ledge, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
But nobody knew.
No, well, if you were listening to him live, normally he's pre-recorded, but he was live on election night, and right around 6-7 o'clock, it was freak out mode. Not for us, but Mark Levin. I was listening to Mark Levin on election night, and Mark Levin said he was freaking out. He said, "Guys, I don't know what you're doing. If you're listening to the show right now and you haven't voted yet, what are you waiting for? This is your time to do it. Get off of He was telling people to stop listening to him, to go out there and vote now or never, or this thing's over. And sure enough, by about 9-10 o'clock, it started really looking like Trump was going to win. And by 11, we were just celebrating.
I was working third shift then. It was 6 at night to 6 in the morning. And I was on the way to work, so it was like 5:30, and Sean Hannity was on.
Okay.
And he was losing his, and he was screaming.
Oh, I didn't realize he was freaking out.
But Mark Levin screaming at the state of Florida.
Mark Levin did that.
What is your problem in Florida?
Yeah, Mark Levin was freaking out on Florida in particular. He was talking about the Panhandle, because apparently the Panhandle is very conservative.
Right.
The reason it's a purple state is because the greater Miami area, which might even include Fort Lauderdale, that whole metropolitan area, that whole southern tip is huge, got big numbers. So, the population is like really centered there. And they are very, very, very liberal. And so the whole rest of the state is very conservative, and so they almost balance each other out, and why sometimes it goes red, sometimes it goes blue.
Kind of like Illinois, but they always go blue because of the state of Chicago.
It's actually nation or something. I don't know.
The nation in a
city-state.
the city-state in a civil war.
Something like that. Yeah. But anyway, so I do remember Mark Levin right around 6:37 who was telling people in the panhandle of Florida, get your butts out there and vote.
Right.
And he ended up winning Florida, but that wasn't called until like 9,
They held on
10.
that. They held on that so long.
Well, no, they had to. I mean, it was kind of too close to call, and it was very, very blue for a while, and then it was ticking to the red, and then finally they said, we're going to call it for Florida, but it was late. It was like I won't give the exact time, but it felt like 9. But turns out Kerry Kellerman talked him off the ledge. They ended up cutting the live feed early because it was too negative. Afterwards, talking off the ledge happened subsequent to that. So anyway,
that's
a
awesome.
little history lesson for you.
I had my sister, her son, that ran out in the front yard, started screaming. She was happy, jubilant.
What, your sister's son?
Yeah, late in the night. Late in the night.
Sister's
11.
son. Okay, I didn't realize that he would go out there and cheer like that.
I didn't think so either. It's the older sister.
Okay, all right.
Her son.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty amazing.
That's cool.
That family is a little bit different. I gave him Trump signs because they were definitely Trump supporters. But when family members came over from his side of the family, they had to pull the signs.
That's a shame.
I thought that was quite a shame too.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
never
it's
understood when you have a child that's it's not a child, when you have your offspring who you could be 19, 20 years old, raised by a very, very right-wing family, mom and dad, very right-wing. In fact, they follow us, and son goes off and turns into a flaming liberal. I don't understand it. I don't know how that happens. I have to live something like that to understand it because that doesn't make any sense.
You talking about
somebody that I'd have to remind you after the show who it is.
Okay,
it's somebody that follows, who was an earlier follower on Facebook and all that.
Oh, is that the one you got into it on Facebook with? Or you could have, but you didn't?
Oh, no. This guy's super Trump supporter.
Oh, okay.
Super. But the son is really far gone.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't
But
get
that's
that
okay.
at all.
I'm going to hold hope because when he has children and buys a house and becomes more wise and learns more about how life works, he will definitely come back over because he's a very smart person.
And something that I'd like to say about that, I've been thinking about this for a while. Politics, a lot of people will shy away from it, especially people that don't get into it at all. Like, no, I don't want to talk about. No, I don't do politics at all. And I'm like, no, calm down.
I don't want anybody to judge me.
Politics right now is becoming. People
like
think it's
mainstream.
hard. People think it's hard. It's so hard. Oh, I don't know the names of the players. I don't want anything to know.
I got to tell you something. When we first started the show, I was worried about being able to get all the names right.
Yeah, we were going to have a board
Yeah.
with the name. We probably still should, but.
Well, I'm better at remembering a lot of the names. But anyway,
And
sorry
so-
for interrupting.
No, and so now it is becoming, when I say it's hard to hate Trump, it's becoming easier and easier right now.
To hate him?
To follow politics.
Right.
And to follow and say, okay, yeah, you know what? I don't like Trump, but damn it, man. What he's doing is working.
This is why the Democrats, all their tricks are not working. Because everybody is following it, they're learning it, and they're like before it was like nobody's paying attention to any politics, and then you hear something on the news from the mainstream media, the liberal propaganda, and then they just accept it as true, and then that's what they believe. They're like, yeah, well, I heard on the news that blah 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 blah, and then these people go out and pull the lever for the Democrat because they just were told that. Like you said, people are able to follow this. They're able to understand it. It's kind of like nonstop, and people are. Do you feel that people are kind of viewing politics more so now than ever? Kind of like the way people were following reality TV shows maybe 10, 15 years ago, like Survivor. People were like hanging on every single episode of Survivor, and they would go to the water cooler and they were talking about it. Oh, what happened on Survivor? Oh, can you believe that person did this? Can you believe that person did that? Or even The Apprentice with Donald Trump, or Big Brother, or whatever. Now it's like people are like, oh, did you hear what happened with Comey yesterday? Did you hear what Schiff said? Oh, heck no. You got
Let me tell you, at the job that I'm at, the jobs that I've had in the past couple years, absolutely. When we were doing the campaign night, well, throughout the whole thing, I was giving out Trump signs of guys I worked with that would take them and that wanted to take them.
Right.
And the night of the election, it was every 15 minutes when something new came out, we would all run together. Somebody would tell somebody and tell somebody, and we were all glued to it. The last job I had, we talked about politics all the time. One kid kept coming up to me. He's a real quiet, strange fella. Mm-hmm. He'd come up to me almost every day. You think North Korea's going to hit something? Oh, like every day he would say. And I forgot about how bad it was, folks. My father had confided in me just recently.
Really?
That he lie awake at night.
Oh no! Are you serious?
Frustrated with Kim Jong-un.
Oh man! I mean, I lived there for 30 days, and I got a good feel of what was going on.
South Korea.
In South Korea.
Yeah, South Korea. No, you didn't live in North Korea.
Not in North Korea. And I'm telling you right now, nobody there was worried about North Korea.
Well, and he listened to our show, and we talked about it, and I'm telling you, it helped out. But now look what's going on. And people at the job I'm at now, it's all day long. This one guy walks around when something news breaks. He walks around. He does a drive-by to everybody.
Did you hear what Comey said?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so people are a little bit more less afraid to bring up politics, because what was a big problem before? It was like you bring up politics and somebody has a disagreement with you, and all of a sudden you're arch enemies, and people didn't want that. People were worried about that. And also, they didn't want to say something that can be attacked so viciously, especially since it is the MO of your average Democrat to call right-wingers Nazis, Hitler, racists, against black people especially, really, really something to really be worried about at work. But it's not working.
No, it's not working. And that thing that glitched with Google that happened in California, when you Googled the name of the Republican and Nazi came up as a descriptor?
Yeah, like you're a Nazi, or you believe in Nazism or something. I don't know.
What?
That's just, it's going to get people to laugh at you for even trying it.
Well, you'll like this. I got this clip just for gee whiz. I didn't know if we'd even ever use it for the show tonight, but this is Diamond and Silk.
Okay.
They took to the streets in Harlem.
Okay.
And what transpired was quite interesting. Check this out.
Do you feel like you're winning?
Win for what?
Do you feel like you are a winner, like you're winning?
Well, win for what?
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Winning. Winning. Totally winning. You're going to get sick and tired of winning.
Do you feel like you are winning?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm winning.
Do you feel like a winner?
Because your eyelashes look good, girl.
Yes,
and they winning, too.
Well, it ain't that you're winning and it ain't that you're losing. It's that you're still here. You're living.
I love it.
And we love the hair.
Love it.
Yeah.
She got purple hair. Purple hair.
Get it. Yes. Your hair on with your fast self.
How do you feel up under this President Donald Trump? Because you know he is responsible for this booming economy.
Yeah.
Well, President Trump.
Okay.
Well, I don't like it.
Whoa. You don't like the economy booming up under this president that's got it booming?
I don't like the president. I think he's a bigot.
You think he's a who?
A bigot.
But now, hold up.
I won't hold you back. I won't hold you back.
Can you give me the definition of a bigot?
A racist. He started a lot of chaos when there's no need to be chaos.
What did he say?
He says a lot of things he ain't
Like
supposed
what?
to say.
Name one.
That's what she's doing.
He talks about people that he shouldn't talk about.
Like who?
I am speechless. I am without speech.
In this day and time, only the stronger survive.
So, do I get like a thumbs up for our president?
No, not so much, really. No, not really.
What about a thumbs up for the economy?
Right.
Thumbs up for the economy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeff Norris, thumbs up.
what can President Trump do to make it better so that you can feel good about the economy?
Definitely need a better job.
Okay, you've been looking for a better job because he done created about 6 million jobs.
Yes, he did. He did a good job of creating jobs, that's for sure.
I feel that he could do more for black people, but black people have to learn how to start doing more for themselves.
Okay. Get more classy people.
Get more classy people?
Yeah.
You stay classy, San Diego.
I think he says some dumb he should not have a Twitter.
Yeah. Okay.
No, he need a Twitter.
Yeah, he got to get the news out right there.
What's with that?
I'm Diamond.
And I'm Silk.
And it's Water's World.
So, all right. So first of all, what is with people saying, "Oh, I don't like when he tweets on"? Let me tell you something, and I'm not the first one to come up with this, but this pretty much sums it up perfectly. Whoever did come up with it, kudos to you. And that is, Twitter is the way that he is communicating with his constituency,
right?
And also people that don't like him, who are American citizens, and of course the Democrats or people that oppose him want him to stop tweeting and feel that he should stop tweeting. And oh my gosh, every time he tweets, I get all tense. I get tense. Yeah, so you need to knock it off because, I mean, this is quintessentially what the founding fathers were hoping when they created the self-rule, was that there would be a direct connection between the people, the citizens of the United States, and their leadership, including the President of the United States.
Elected officials. And so I find it disturbing. Now, what I do love that they did, and I learned something from this. Everybody listening right now learned something. I try to teach you guys this as much as possible. You see it when I do debates on Twitter, which I really should walk away. I really should walk away. But whenever I do debates, I do what Diamond and Silk just demonstrated, which was whenever somebody that you're debating asserts something, you've got to keep questioning them until you get to the bottom of it. And she said, who, why, when? Well, and I've done that to people too. When they say something, when anybody says about Twitter, I hate his tweets, I look at him and say, are you on Twitter?
Okay.
Are you on Twitter? Do you follow him?
Do I follow him?
Where do you hear his tweets at? If you're not on Twitter and you're not following
it's interesting
him,
that you say
and
that.
you got a problem with his tweets, where are you hearing the tweets at?
I wish I could have a problem with his tweets, but I have him on notification and I never get him.
I don't either.
They shadow banned Donald Trump. But anyway, no. So seriously, he says, "Well, I think he's a bigot," and she goes, "Well, what's your definition of a bigot?" Well, he's a racist. Racist against who? Black people. Who? Name somebody. And all of a sudden, he was just like,
it's stuff coming out of his mouth. What he says he says something about people he shouldn't say. Who did he say?
Who? They said who at the same time. Yeah. So they're getting good at this. So you can't just accept criticism of Trump unless it's legitimate. And if you hear criticism against Trump that's not legitimate, such as he's a bigot, he's a racist. Now, some people make the argument, well, he does the ban on Muslims, and then that's when you need to start. You need to know more in order to properly challenge that. And the travel ban is only called a Muslim ban because it's kind of a dishonest way of describing it. Because just because the countries that he banned travel from happen to have majority Muslim, doesn't mean that it's a Muslim ban.
Correct.
There are Christians and there are Jews and probably some other religions too that are in the countries that he bans travel to America from in the travel ban. And by the way, he has a total constitutional right and a duty to do this kind of stuff for us, to protect us. And by the way, there are Muslim majority countries that are not banned from traveling to the United States. So the idea of calling a Muslim ban. So these are the kind of things that you need to get brushed up on in order to challenge these false statements from liberals when you're debating them. So when they say he's a bigot, and you say, "Oh yeah, what's a bigot and how is he a bigot?" If they're smart and educated and say, "Wow, he's got that Muslim ban," then you got to get into, well, which countries? Did you know that he's not that he doesn't have a ban from this country, which would be majority Muslim? And you just kind of go down, and eventually you end up painting them into a corner until they cry for mercy.
Yes.
And then you declare victory and then mute them and move on.
Yeah, you got to do a victory lap too.
Definitely. You do the victory lap before you mute them because sometimes you want to get the reaction from them about the victory lap because it makes you feel really good.
Yeah, mute people. Don't ever block them. The only people I block on Twitter are companies that if I see an advertisement.
I block very, very rarely, but I do block people. Actually, I blocked somebody today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to block somebody today, and this is kind of an interesting. There is a Tucker Carlson parody account.
Oh, no.
It's run by a conservative. And I don't know the guy who runs it personally, but I know a friend of a friend that knows him. But anyway, I accidentally liked and retweeted one of the tweets and had no idea it was not Tucker Carlson. It did not have a blue check mark, but I just kind of didn't really think about it. And once I found out it was a parody, I quickly unliked and retweeted it. The reason I retweeted it is because it was a clever tweet. It was a good tweet. The problem is that if it's not coming from Tucker Carlson and I retweet it and it makes it look like it's coming from Tucker Carlson and then I'm retweeting Tucker Carlson when it's actually a parody account, it makes me look like fake news. It makes me look kind of dumb. So just to be on the extra safe side, I went ahead and blocked the account.
Got to get the block on.
Yeah, but it is a friend of a friend who is conservative. I'm just trying to protect my own brand.
There you go.
So, but that's a rare circumstance.
Speaking about Trump tweets, Trump tweeted this out this week. It's about the IG report. Trump tweeted out, "What is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey?"
Oh, now he's slippery.
Numerous delays. Hope report is not being changed and made weaker. There are so many horrible things to tell. The public has the right to know transparency. What does that mean? Well, this week, apparently there was a leak of the IG's first draft.
Okay.
Of the report that calls Comey incompetent. And it was bad. It was bad.
Wow, breaking news, people. Breaking news.
But the fact that the words that the IG report is using, though, could land Comey in prison, or at least certainly indicted. But I got a clip here. Horowitz goes over it. Horowitz, who is a lifelong Democrat on Fox News, he is, but he's a great thinker, and he's got wisdom, and this is what he had to say. There's a little bit of a long clip, but it's very, very important for those of you that have seen this. No, it's not a long clip. It's only 2 minutes long. But for those of you who have seen the leak or heard about the leak or maybe heard that Comey was in the news this week, this is what it's about. Comey, Loretta Lynch, and McCabe, all three not only need to lawyer up, but really probably need to go to underground bunkers and shelters and other places. So this is Horowitz on Fox.
Well, I think several conclusions. Number one, somebody leaked it because they're afraid it's going to get changed, and they want people like us to see the original. And I hope that Horowitz holds on to the original draft so he can be questioned about it. Second, it proves that we never needed a special counsel. We have the Inspector General. He is independent. He does a great job. All of this could have been done through the Justice Department. Regular lawyers. You don't need to bring in a multi-million-dollar group of people with a target on the back of specific individuals. That's not the way justice should operate.
Doesn't Michael Horowitz have the power to say we're not scrapping anything, we're keeping everything in this report as is?
No, he really makes a recommendation, but Congress has the power to say to him, produce the original report. Let's see what they changed and why they changed it. Now let's call in the people who changed it and find out why it was changed. Look, let's be fair. If there's something negative about Comey and Comey's lawyer comes and says, no, this isn't accurate, here's proof it isn't accurate, it should be changed. That's due process. But if it's changed for political reasons, that's very different. We'll see it, but it will be different from the original, and we're entitled to see every single draft.
Okay, so that's the first half of that clip. So that's really important to understand that this IG report, first draft, second draft, multiple drafts of the report, changing of the wording, adding, deleting, whatever it be for the final report, all the drafts prior must be saved.
That makes sense, but why do you have to leak it to save it?
Well, he believes, and I kind of agree with him, he believes that the person that leaked it on purpose because the information was so damning against Comey that he's afraid people are going to weigh in on it or might have a meeting on the tarmac with Bill Clinton or something about.
But why can't he just hold on to the first draft and say this is the first draft and not leak it? It seems kind of silly.
I don't know,
I feel like there's more going on.
It's more
here.
fun to leak it.
Yeah, that's probably the problem.
I don't know.
That's probably the problem. People are having too much fun.
Leaking all over the place. So that was great information. Here's the second half of that clip with Horowitz.
He only gets immunity if he has something substantial to offer. If he has nothing to offer, they call him, he takes the fifth, and people can make their own judgments about that. He has to make a proffer.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is about McCabe. I apologize.
It is. His lawyer has to come in and say, if you give me immunity, I'm going to give you A, B, C, D. And they have to say, wow, that looks pretty good. How about if you give us E and F also? It's a negotiation. Sure. In the end, he'll probably get immunity.
So it's happening now?
Yeah.
Think?
So ultimately, if, for instance, the DOJ realizes, wait, there are criminal charges we could launch against him.
They won't give him immunity.
Exactly.
They won't give him immunity because they don't want to be Ollie North. Remember, Ollie North got immunity, was convicted, then the D.C. Circuit overruled it, reversed it, saying, you used immunized testimony. So it makes it a little harder to prosecute.
So there's a little bit of insight from the Ollie North back in the day, back in the 80s. And if you listen to what he's saying right now, McCabe's lawyer has entered into negotiation about a plea deal.
Or as he says, negotiation. He probably pronounced it the correct way, but we don't ever do that.
Yeah,
he also overpronounced fifth. He actually pronounced the F. I thought that was kind of funny.
Fifth.
The fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just say fifth.
I just say fifth.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
Give me a fifth.
All right. Give him a fifth.
No.
A Jack Daniels, baby.
I was just saying. No, but if you listen to what he's talking about that McCabe's lawyers are actively seeking something to where he may, get immunity. He may have a plea, a deal or something on the table, which I'm just speculating, just leads me to believe that McCabe has got to be fuming right now, just livid in the fact that his $10, $20, $30 million retirement has been taken from him, and that it's all due to he may be blaming James Comey. That his lack, and if you remember back during the campaign, James Comey was kind of absent during the whole email scandal and second in command. McCabe was literally running the entire show to keep and subvert from Hillary Clinton, while at the same time McCabe's wife, for the first time ever, runs for a Senate seat and gets millions and millions of dollars thrown at her by the Democrats and the governor of Virginia, and it's just out of control. So McCabe is trying to juggle all these balls, and maybe he's angry that Comey didn't take more of the fall and he got away, whatever it be, but trying to make a plea deal, trying to get immunity.
Comey's got to go down. One thing that a lot of people were freaking out about, I think it was Diamond Silk, said that he wants to get immunity so that, did you hear about this?
No, maybe.
The Diamond and Silk speculated that he would ask for immunity, and then as soon as they say, yeah, sure, you get all immunity, go out and take full credit for everything. I did everything. No, everybody else is innocent because I did everything.
Oh, man.
And then he does not take the fall because he got immunity. All testimony is immunized. And he basically exonerates everybody in his testimony. And so they thought that was the plan. But the problem with that is that's not really how it works. You don't just say, let's say I suspect Brian of doing a lot of bad things with a lot of other people. And then Brian comes to me and says, Carrie, will you, if you give me immunity, I'll sing like a canary.
Okay.
And then I say, okay, here's the papers. You have full immunity. Tell me everything. That is not how this works. The only way I would give Brian immunity is if he were to show me exactly or prove to me what he can testify in front of a judge or whatever in order to get everybody in trouble.
Right, and that's what Horowitz was saying, that
Yes.
that his lawyer will offer up, we've got A, B, C, D,
right,
and then the state will come back and say, well, we want E and F as well, and you just kind of shuffling the cards, and
Right.
if it looks like their favor and they can't charge him with any criminality, then they'll probably do it. But if they
or they
can
get bigger
charge
fish, like
right.
they'll say, well, we know you did wrong, but we'll let you go and not prosecute you if you can be the testimony against these bigger fish, and we can
Right.
get maybe 3 convictions of bigger fish, and you get away with your wrongdoing. That
Right.
would be the reason for it. So the idea that they would just say, oh, you have something to say? All right, well, you're immune. Let's go. And then he would go and say, yeah, it was me. I did everything. That's not going to happen.
No.
Well, it's kind of a funny thing.
I imagine they could pull the immunity card back out. It's not like double jeopardy.
Well, they wouldn't give him the immunity.
It's not like OJ writing a book that. Did you see that? Wrote the book If I Did It.
Right. Yeah. If I did it. No,
but they made the color of the book to where you can't see the word if.
Right. And it just says I did it. Right. Because the if is almost invisible.
Same color as the background.
Right, yeah. Right. So.
No, but so OJ could come out and tell everybody how he did it, and he won't go to jail.
Right, because he said if.
No, it'd be double jeopardy. He was already tried and already innocent.
Okay.
So you cannot try him again for the same crime.
I got you.
Double jeopardy. Immunity is completely different. In my mind, if they offer immunity and you don't live up to it's like a contractual agreement.
Yeah,
you don't live up to it.
Yeah.
Like you could, okay, I'm going to say A, B, C, D, E, and F, and I'm going to give you G. And they're like, whoa, all right, here's the immunity papers. Go ahead and sign it. You get up on the stand, you plead the fifth? No, man. No, man, that don't work like that. You know what I'm saying?
I would say that I wouldn't worry about it if he does get immunity, because they're not going to give it to him unless they're going to get something big from him.
Right.
That's what you need to take away from this. I would say that if they end up granting him immunity, which I'm surprised, but if they do, that's actually a really good sign.
He may spill the beans on the Clintons.
There's going to be bigger fish than McCabe for them to agree to immunity, period.
Right.
So
I'd go all the way to the top. Literally.
Yeah. It would go higher than him, and it would be more people than him.
Right.
So, like, they wouldn't, if let's say this did go all the way to Obama, they wouldn't grant Obama immunity so that they can go after his underlings.
Yeah, so they go after so they could go after McCabe.
Like, I want to finger all the low guys, and they all go to prison, so I can go free. No, that's not how it works. So
it goes the other way. Yeah,
right.
So James A. Wolf, former Senate Intel Panel Security Director, indicted for lying to the FBI about having contact with 3 reporters in December 2017. He was a former security director for the Senate Intel Committee who was in charge of maintaining all classified information from the executive office to the panel. He was indicted for allegedly giving false statements to the FBI agents looking into possible leaks to reporters, the Justice Department announced on Thursday night. This is big news on Friday. All the cameras were on him as he was walking through the hall. Did
he have handcuffs?
I don't know if he had handcuffs, but he did almost like a perp walk.
So embarrassing.
Yeah, it was an embarrassing perp walk.
The look on his face was he was crushed. He was a really crushed man.
Because this has been his 3 decades. 30 years of his life.
He should have known better.
Oh, everybody says he should have known.
Yeah.
Yes, everybody says.
Oh,
right.
This guy, I'm so glad he's going down now.
I'm wondering how much bad stuff he's done in the past, and this can't be your first time. You don't get a DUI the first time you go out and drink and drive. You normally don't get arrested the first time you steal something. You normally do not get found out by the government
that you've been squealing like a pig to the
first
press.
person you talk to.
Right.
Anyway, so with that in mind, James A. Wolf, 58 years old, served as panel security director for 29 years, according to the feds. Wolf lied to the FBI in December 2017 about contacts he had with 3 different reporters. That's what the indictment said. He also allegedly lied about giving 2 reporters non-public information about committee matters. He had
non-public as in it's not fit for public consumption?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's like classified.
Right.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really bad. This is by Breitbart News, by the way, folks. This is where it gets really, really bad. Wolf had extensive contact with Carter Page, who was in the Trump campaign, and exchanged 82 text messages with reporter number 2 the same day that he received classified information about Carter Page. A few weeks later, reporter number 2 published an online article that revealed the identity of Carter Page. So in essence, he unmasked Carter Page.
Wow.
It was unmasking. I mean, that's plain and simple. So they got to figure out the details and find out if this really did happen. But this is what they're saying right now in the indictment. On April 3rd, 2017, Watkins, who is reporter number 2, Watkins, a byline, appeared on a BuzzFeed article, go figure, that revealed that Page had met with a Russian intelligence operative in 2013.
And we have thoroughly exposed BuzzFeed as a complete fake news media outlet.
But the 2013 Russian intelligence operative that Carter Page met in 2013, which Trump didn't have anything to do with the campaign run.
Right.
Obama just won his second term in 2013 because Carter Page was being used by the FBI and setting up, trapping Russian officials. That's the backstory on that, and that's why they had to get Carter Page to get in the Trump campaign.
So to sum that up, would you say it's like in order to substantiate our fake Russiagate hoax, we need to look into the backgrounds of every single person that is connected, even loosely with Trump, all the way back to their childhood. So if any person can be connected in any way at any time in their entire lifetime to anybody who could then be construed to be somehow connected with Russia, this will be our smoking gun.
And if we can't find that, then we'll find somebody we've been using to touch Russia.
Okay.
And then we'll just get them to slip them in the campaign.
And that's the kind of stuff that's been happening.
And so this reporter unmasked, and I'm the first one to say this. Nobody is saying that Carter Page was unmasked. But as you read it, as you see the indictment, Carter Page was unmasked.
Yeah.
He was doxxed, if you
I'm
will.
going to be honest with you, Brian. I think you're the first person I've actually heard it worded that way from. I mean, has anybody else reported it that way?
No, not that I've heard of.
Wow. So that's what he's in trouble for. Now, they're saying lying to the FBI, but...
Because, and here's where the lying gets into it. Wolf allegedly called reporter number 2, which is Watkins.
Oh, well, let me back up. Are you talking about... This is from Breitbart article.
Yes.
So they said it, but you're saying that they're not putting emphasis on the fact that this is an unmasking.
Yes, they are not putting emphasis on that because he was indicted for lying to the FBI about contact with reporters.
Right.
So that's what they got. Now, in the document, it starts to in the indictment, it starts to unravel things that they're looking into, that are happening, that they got to discover. There's got to be a discovery involved. And so here's what happened. Wolf allegedly called Watkins, reporter number 2, nearly a half an hour after that story went live, and had a phone conversation with her for about 7 minutes. In December 2017, Wolf allegedly messaged said reporter, Watkins, reporter number 2. And this is what he said to her. This is unbelievable. Folks, this is that 29 years in the government. And this guy is giving classified information to a young 20-something-year-old. She is beautiful. She's very pretty. And this is what he writes to her. I've been watching.
Can you do it in your sexy voice?
I've been watching your career as it blossoms, even before you had a career. I don't know, but somebody said, no, he said, I've been watching your career take off, even before you ever had a career in journalism. I always tried to give you as much information that I could and to do the right thing with it so you could get that scoop before anyone else. I always enjoyed the way that you would pursue a story like nobody else was doing in my hallway. I guess it was a typo error.
Hallway? Okay.
Yeah. I felt like I was part of your excitement and always very supportive of your career and the tendency that you exhibited to chase down a good story. This is the message read according to the indictment. Watkins, and this is the woman Watkins. Watkins worked previously for BuzzFeed, Politico, and McClatchy. Earlier on Thursday, the New York Times revealed that that this woman worked for the New York Times at this time. And the New York Times said that their affair, their relationship, happened before she came to the Times, and that she told us about her relationship with him. So we got no dirt on us. We knew and we're okay with it, and she didn't do anything wrong here at the Times. But then the Times goes on and they said they reveal that federal investigators have seized years worth of emails, phone records related to one of its reporters, which happened to be Ollie Watkins. She previously had a 3-year romantic relationship with Wolf. The Times reported, adding that the records covered a period of time before she joined the paper. Wolf used several means to contact reporters. This is going back to the FBI, the Senate Intel Security Director. This is the Intel Security Director. He used several means to contact multiple reporters like Signal, WhatsApp. According to the court papers, he also met clandestinely in person in secluded areas of the Hart Senate office building. The indictment charges.
Now, are you saying that he was dating her or knew her before she started working for these?
The Times said that she dated him before she came to the Times, but she did date him for 3 years, and he denied it, and then the FBI showed him pictures of him and her together.
Is this you?
Yes, yes.
How do you explain this?
And why were you in this room with
Hold
her
on,
alone?
but here's what I'm thinking. It is said that he's dating a reporter, and it seems as though it's being presented to us by the mainstream media and other media outlets like your Breitbarts that he really wanted this girl bad, and she's a reporter, and he has inside information, and he wants to get in her good graces so that he could, have further his relationship with her. So he just couldn't help but do pillow talk with her in order to accomplish his goals of pursuing her. However,
Yikes.
After listening to you read that, it sounds to me like he was pursuing her, or forget about the pursuing part, that he had already known her, and that he was looking to get his information out by getting her to go and become a journalist. He already knew her.
Oh, yeah. He knew her before her before she became famous.
So instead of the motive being that he just wants to further his relationship with her, it sounds like his motive was to leak.
Well, if you're watching this live, or you're watching it recorded, watching the video, this is the picture of Wolf and Watkins.
Now, okay, so when you see a picture of a guy that looks like that and a girl that looks like that, and they end up in a relationship, I can only come to the conclusion that this is a very ambitious woman.
Yeah, look at her. Yes.
She's an ambitious woman, and she knows the status of this guy, and so she has her motives. And he might be falling into a trap. Or, I mean, if she pursuing him, obviously, if it was before she became a journalist, she obviously must have decided that this is a way for her to make big time into journalism.
Well, he said to her, he said, I've been watching your career take off even before you had a career in journalism.
So imagine this then, Brian. They meet, and he finds out that she really wants to get into the journalism business, and she really wants to get far and get high and, rise up in the ranks of journalism. And which is why she would glom on to a guy like this, because he would have this kind of inner circle information that would make for some great articles on her part.
Right.
I guess he just figured, well, I can, make that happen, and I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to go down that road. Wow, this is pretty
rough.
sad.
It's really sad. He preyed on a woman that was able to be taken advantage of.
No, she preyed on him. Come on, what are you talking about?
Well, people. In the letter that he wrote her, you can see he was truly had an infatuation with her.
Yeah, and she was like, well,
she used him and he used her.
Yeah, true.
And I just my
It was
personal
a mutually
opinion,
beneficial situation here, which ends up with him in jail.
Yeah, my personal opinion is somebody tapped him to get it to the reporters, or they had a secret seance meeting with the the devil horns and stuff and the black robes.
What's that called that Lady Gaga was doing? You guys know.
Blood pizza gate.
Not the pizza. No, it was the whatever. I feel bad.
You're killing me. All right, you got to find
you guys
that one
can
out.
tell.
Okay, so
spirit cooking.
Spirit cooking. So they had a spirit cooking dinner, and the Clintons, the Podestas, the pedophiles, everybody was there, and Wolf was there, and they started talking about it. And it's like, hey, anybody here know any way that we got Carter Page in a Trump campaign? We know he's connected to Russia because we made it happen back in 2013. Does anybody have a way to get him out to the public? And Wolf raises his hand and says, hey, my girlfriend right here, she writes for the New York Times.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or she writes for BuzzFeed. She writes for Politico. She wrote for McClatchy. All four of those papers. She wrote for all four of them. We know all four of them are nothing but hacks and shills for the Democrat Party. So he's like, she's down.
Well, definitely. She's probably excited about it. Like, oh my gosh, this is my big break.
My 15 minutes of fame come and gone.
Hooking up with him was the smartest thing I ever did. Well, she's ambitious.
And women, I have found out, looks are secondary.
Are you kidding me? Of course. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I mean, how else do I land a hot wife? I mean, come on, man, right? Secondary. Looks are secondary. So, good Lord. It's just so creepy to see the two of them side by side pictured together.
Well, I mean, what was it? Anna Nicole Smith? I mean.
Oh, you did. You went there, didn't you?
I mean, she found out he was a multi-billionaire and decided, wow. I'm feeling a little ambitious,
right? And I even think that she even made a comment that they didn't.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, I don't think it's possible when you're 90.
You're saying they didn't consummate the marriage.
I don't know. I think the kids argued that in court because they wanted all their dad's wealth because she got it all.
It didn't matter. So the signature was on a dotted line. It was a marriage, and that's it. So it is what it is. Hey, he wanted to be happy for the last couple of years of his life. Or was it years? A couple months?
Yeah, a few months.
Months?
So here's fake Jake once again, and here's his take on this going down.
In the last few hours, James Wolf, a former senior staffer on the Senate Intelligence Committee, appeared in court charged with lying repeatedly to the FBI about his contacts with 3 journalists. Now,
he's not in handcuffs, but he is
sad looking.
He looks rough.
Very.
It looks like somebody killed his dog.
Yeah.
As part of this investigation, the Trump Justice Department secretly obtained phone and email records of at least one of those reporters.
Okay, here's where he's getting ready to go crazy. Okay, Trump campaign, or Trump administration has gained access to one of the reporters' information. Okay, folks, if the FBI is looking at you for anything, okay, criminal legalities, whatever the case may be. I was watching a report on this, that back in 2011, the rules were changed by Obama, and he went wild with it. And subsequently, the rules have now changed again to make it a little bit tighter to spy on reporters or to get information like this. And we know that the FBI can go raid Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's lawyer's office, and take everything for no reason or any reason at all. We know that can happen.
Which is sad. That's against the Sixth Amendment. That's just a sad development.
Right, but this was taken and had to be signed off by Jeff Sessions. This was the real deal. This was like going to a judge and say, Judge, we've got videotape of Brian selling cocaine. We got him in his backyard mixing it up and stuff. In
this case, we have a blatant leak and a lie by a federal official.
Right. So it's a fact. It's a fact that he lied to the FBI. They take that information to Jeff Sessions. He signs off on it. They go and seize more information from old girl, the reporter. Don't misconstrue that. That's legal. That's legit.
Yeah, because according to the Fourth Amendment, you have to have probable cause. And if you have facts, basically what it boils down to, if you have evidence, hard evidence, that a crime occurred, you would then be given a warrant to search and seize property in order to build on that case, as long as you have actual real evidence. And in this case, they did. So
right.
that is how it works. This is how it's always been thought to work, even by our founders. If there's evidence exists of a crime, they're allowed to get a warrant to get more evidence. And that's
right.
how it works.
And so here's fake Jake trying to
New York Times journalist Ali Watkins, who covers national security issues. Watkins was notified about these intrusions into her records by the U.S. government after the fact.
I think my laugh says it all.
Making it impossible for her to challenge this questionable search and seizure in court.
Okay. If they got the goods on you, you can't challenge a search and seizure. You can't. Hold on.
Well, I have to look it up.
Hold on. And I'm taking this down plain Jane. This is just basic plain Jane. If you get pulled over by the cops and the cops serve you a ticket and say you got to be in court, or they pull you over, they think that you're drunk driving, you refuse to get out of the car, they get a judge, they get a warrant, they can physically remove you out of that car. Okay, you can't challenge that in court, but the cart don't become before the egg and hatch.
Well, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, which we have that, supported by oath of affirmation, which would be the judge signing, or Sessions, right?
Yeah, Judge Sessions.
In particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So I think what Jake Tapper is trying to say is that last part of the Fourth Amendment may have been violated.
Well, but it was signed off that they needed to get her records, not anyone else at the New York Times, not any other employee, not the company itself, just her stuff.
But here's something that I'm just now seeing. It says, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. that does not mean that she has to be notified ahead of time. No, it just has to be affirmed by a judge, and the judge has to see on the paper that he's signing. By the way, somebody said, is there something wrong with the lights in the studio? Actually, no. When I get a white paper in front of
it's bad. It's bad.
It gets dark.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's not getting darker.
No, it's doing a white screen. You're telling it that's.
It doesn't hurt anything. It just makes it go a little darker.
Well, but it's going to flicker now.
Anyway, so the judge will get his paper, and it will say on it the particular describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That's for the judge, right?
And this is why everybody's clamoring for the scope of Robert Mueller's witch hunt.
Yeah, that's
why they want the scope, because we think it's completely beyond the scope. And then somebody else said a couple of weeks ago, "Oh, well, the scope was given to me verbally." No, man, come on, man.
I didn't hear that. Is that true? Wow, that is really bad.
So anyway, so Jake Tapper is trying to cover for this awful guy by claiming that the reporter's rights were violated by her accepting and receiving classified documents and unmasking of Carter Page.
Wow.
Before it happened, free press advocates, including those of us who bring you this show, consider this action by the Trump administration diving into a reporter's phone and email.
No, there was no diving. It wasn't a swim team. No, nobody was swimming. There's no water. Nobody was diving.
We're going to play the same game they do, right?
That's right.
There was no diving. I would say no evidence exists that happened.
No,
that never happened.
No.
Nobody dove. Wow.
No earpieces, caps, and nose clips, no water, no
Jake,
swimming pool.
If you don't produce evidence that somebody actually dove into anything, then I'm going to have to call you a liar.
Right, you're absolutely a liar. Fake Jake.
It's to see who her sources may be, to be an egregious intrusion on the First Amendment. A spokeswoman for the New York Times says, quote, freedom of the...
Dude, hold on a second. Hold on. Searching and seizing your stuff is not a violation of the First Amendment. What the hell is he talking about? This is literally a misunderstanding of our rights. You need to read the Bill of Rights. You need to read it word by word and figure out what it means, because you clearly don't. Searching and seizing property from you has nothing to do with the First Amendment.
No, he's trying to muddy the waters and make you think. Was this Jake Tapper that said this? It said, you are not allowed to read the leaked classified documents. It's our job.
We're the only ones qualified
to read the leaked. So you're going to violate somebody if you read those leaked documents.
It's actually illegal for you to read this, but we're allowed to read it to you because we are
reporters.
We're elite people. We're special.
We've
been licensed.
Yes, do not think these reporters think that they're above anything.
Did I ever tell everybody listening how we ended up getting White House press credentials? I'm almost scared to say, but it was a lesson that I learned up until should I tell the story? I feel like I should keep it secret.
I don't know. I think you should probably keep
it secret.
A lid on it.
I'll keep a lid on it, but I'm going to tell you something.
If anybody out there wants to be a White House press correspondent for Smith Radio, I'm putting this out there right now, and you live near or in D.C.
You have to live in D.C.
And you can get to the White House on a regular basis, we can get you. And then you come to the show. You'd be on the show. You do a segment. And we can get you in the White House on a daily occurrence.
Right. If you feel like being a reporter at the White House,
we should
DM us.
We should tap a young intern.
Sure.
You know?
Apparently, it's the popular thing in D.C. Oh, Brian,
this is a cornerstone of democracy, and communications between journalists and their sources demand protection. The editor of BuzzFeed, where Watkins used to work, stated,
Of course, he's quoting all these awful, wretched outlets.
Quote, We're deeply troubled by what looks like a case of law enforcement interfering with a reporter's constitutional right to gather information about her own government.
No, that's not what happened. They searched and seized your property. They did not interfere with the report. Look, she did it. She was not interfered with.
No, not at all. She got the classified documents,
right,
which is illegal.
Okay, let me explain why this is totally on the up and up and totally legal. The government found out that their employee broke the law, and they found the evidence of it.
Right.
The evidence led to a reporter.
Yeah, 3 of them, and 1 of them has been named.
Right. When the evidence that one of their government workers broke the law, and the evidence leads to a reporter, that is totally probable cause. That is totally legitimate probable cause to then follow the Fourth Amendment and get a warrant and search and seize the emails and texts and whatnot of that reporter. It's totally legal. And this is all constitutional. What Jake Tapper thinks happened was that a reporter gathered evidence information from a source that was supposed to be anonymous. But the government, those bad people, the government decided we need to find out what that source is. We don't know what it is. We have no evidence. We don't know what's going on. But we know that reporter knows. And because we know that reporter knows, we're going to search and seize her property. That would be illegal.
That would be what Obama did.
Yes.
On a regular basis.
Obama
to
totally
reporters. And these reporters are acted. I don't know how reporters still covered for Obama when they found out that he was spying on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they didn't care because it was James Rosen who was, remember when he was spied on?
Right.
Oh my gosh, that was an egregious violation of the Fourth Amendment against a reporter. Wow, very scary. But yeah, so make sure that you guys understand the distinction, because if you're going to be arguing and if you're going to support the Constitution and argue on behalf of the Constitution, that is the difference. If the government finds evidence of wrongdoing that leads to a journalist, then the government or whatever, a prosecutor, would be able to then satisfy the Constitution by going through the process legally and getting a warrant to collect emails, articles, sources, and all kinds of information from that reporter. They are not allowed to say, we know a crime occurred, we don't know who's at fault or who did what, but we know the reporter has the source and all kinds of information, so we're going to go ahead and get a warrant for her for searching her stuff. That's totally illegal. Totally illegal. The reporter has the right to keep her sources confidential. But the government already knew who her source was.
Right.
And that's why her stuff got searched and seized legally.
Quote. Now, the Obama administration also repeatedly attacked press freedoms, and we called it out at the time.
Okay,
Did you?
So he's trying to play that card like he's cool.
It was heinous then, and it's just as contemptible now.
Well, I already told you what the difference.
He said it was heinous then, and it's contemptible now.
Well, what I'm saying is I just pointed out why what Obama did was totally illegal,
right?
And why what the Trump DOJ, I guess. It's hard to even call it that. Whatever. The
Trump guys hanging out, doing something.
Well, I mean, I feel like the DOJ is mainly.
Come on, Jeff. Come on, Jeff.
What, Jeff Sessions?
Do it.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is it seems largely Obama's DOJ. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Okay. Let's finish this one up. All right.
This incident included the following. If the Senate Intelligence Committee staffer was charged with lying and not charged with leaking, how bad could these leaks have been? Is the Trump administration escalating the Obama administration's war on leaks by trampling on the First Amendment for the disclosure of information that isn't even particularly sensitive?
Okay.
What the hell did he just say
I'm
there?
telling you right now.
What did he just say there?
He just said that maybe these leaks weren't really even that important.
That it's okay to leak because they weren't really all that sensitive.
They weren't
Be
sensitive.
leaking like a sieve.
So they charged him for lying and not leaking. And that's a fact. They charged him for lying to the FBI about his contact with 3 reporters.
Do you think that...
And I read you what the message said to her.
Do you think that they didn't charge him for the leak because it wasn't sensitive enough? That it would be kind of frivolous? And by the way, maybe because Trump just pardoned a sailor who took pictures of the inside of a submarine, which as a veteran myself, I'll give you an example. I was a Harrier mechanic, which is an attack aircraft, some very small attack aircraft that was integral in the Gulf War. We were told, do not take pictures of the inside of the cockpit. And guess what? I didn't. And if I did and they charged me with espionage or something similar, I would have nobody to blame but myself. So in a way, I kind of think that it wasn't the best pardon, but whatever. Maybe they shouldn't have been so harsh on the sentencing. But my point is that if Trump's going to pardon somebody like that, then maybe you can't go after somebody for leaking information if it's not that sensitive. Because even Sean Hannity was like that he agreed with the pardon of the sailor because he didn't think it was that sensitive to take pictures of the inside of a submarine.
Right. No, absolutely. And I knew someone who took pictures of the F-16s we worked on.
I did a video.
But it was outside. It was the outside body. It was pretty much.
Which is usually okay. But and now here's another thing, another caveat, a little thing that useless information that I learned when I was in the military. We were not supposed to take pictures inside the flight line without permission from intelligence. Every single squadron had their own little intelligence office. And I did a picture. It was kind of like a glamour shots sitting in the cockpit. And my friend had a really high-end camera, and he took a picture of me in the cockpit as if I was a pilot. We obtained permission from the intelligence office to do that. We told them what we were going to do. And they said, "Oh, sounds good to me. Go ahead and do it." And so I got my little glamour shots inside the cockpit. But I'll have to dig that up and see if I can find it and post it for you guys.
And I do not have the picture of the F-16 or anything about it or who was sitting in it. I just know it did happen.
Okay,
I was there. I witnessed it.
Right. Well,
I didn't tell nobody.
In general, you should get permission. I think if you're going to take the picture of an inside of a submarine, it's possible. If it was taken in a way that was not going to expose anything sensitive, you might actually get permission, but you still should ask for it. You should say, "Hey, I want to take a picture in this one area," just saying, "Hey, we're inside the submarine. It's going to be of the racks." And rack in the Marines is a bed. We call them rack. Yeah.
Oh, we call them.
What'd you call the beds in the Air Force?
We called them
a bed in
sleep
the Marine
number.
What? We're not even sponsored by that.
Not yet.
Craftmatic.
Craftmatic. Not yet.
The Craftmatic adjustable.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, no, we call them the racks. But anyway, I would think that it's possible that in the intelligence office would say, "All right, just make sure you don't get. Make sure you let us see them before you go anywhere with them.
Right.
And that way we can pass them off. And it's good. Give them a check."
So he lied, shown pictures of him and the reporters, and he finally came through with it. And he's like, "Okay, yeah, I did it. I had an inappropriate relationship with her, and said stuff, all the text messages, and it looks like he used her to unmask Carter Page."
That's what it looks like to me too.
Okay,
yeah.
With that being said, here's Jake trying to explain this thing away.
Another question. Why seize Watkins' phone and email records, all of them, if you're only looking into one of her possible sources? Because the Trump administration now may not just have information about one of the sources for this national security reporter. They're potentially getting information about a whole bunch of those sources. Are there any safeguards at all here?
No, not when you break federal law. Not when you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't even know if Watkins is in trouble. I think that they're able to get a warrant to seize that stuff because of they're building a case,
and he's building a case that reporters are outside the norm. That's what he's doing. Listen.
Or is the Trump administration just blithely combing through the records of a national security reporter? Another question, how much does President...
Is that what her title is?
Yeah,
he's trying to trick you into thinking that there's some sort of a license you got to get, and only us... she's not just a reporter. She's not just a journalist. She's a national security reporter. And they don't give that license out to just anybody.
No.
Unbelievable.
I got a badge to prove it, too.
Trump's disdain for the Fourth Estate play into any of this? How breezily was this done?
His disdain for the fourth branch,
the Fourth Estate.
The Fourth Estate.
That's what the founders called free press. But the funny thing is he's using that title in order to trick you into thinking that it's something official.
That he's legit, that he's not fake news.
Oh, gosh.
Apparently pressing national security crisis involved. Did anyone even debate this at the Justice Department? Lastly, how many other reporters is the Justice Department doing this to under the shroud of secrecy?
Now that's dog whistle. He's trying to say they're doing it to everybody now.
That's actually a fallacy. In debate, but yeah.
Now, to those Trump supporters out there who don't care about this issue, I will remind you of what I said when it was the Obama administration violating press freedom. Specifically, when the Obama administration was taking unusual steps in a leak investigation to go after a Fox News journalist.
And he did that on purpose, Fox News. He did that on purpose, Fox News, because I know you Trump supporters love your Fox.
Well, hold on, Brian. Isn't it difficult to find an example of Obama doing this to somebody who's not a conservative?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right. Just saying.
I'm a journalist. Obviously, I have a bias here. But even if you side with this president over those of us in the media who challenge him in his administration, it is important to remember the precedent these actions set going forward, perhaps when it's not your guy in the White House. As the Freedom of the Press Foundation put it today, this case, quote, chills all investigative journalism and damages the public's right to know, unquote. Your right to know.
Did anybody stop her from reporting this? And also, is anybody threatening her with legal ramifications for doing so? She's totally allowed to report. Why can't we keep it simple? Guys, don't let them muddy the water and make this sound more complicated than it is. It's real simple. You have the freedom of speech and the freedom of press, freedom to report whatever you want. If somebody gives you sensitive information, as far as I could tell, unless you can give me evidence to show otherwise, as a reporter, you're allowed to report that. You're allowed to write about it. If not, there'd be people all the time in news outlets getting arrested for publishing news articles with sources that are giving them sensitive information. So you do have a freedom of press. However, if the government finds out who your source is, not only are they going to arrest the source, but the warrant for more information is probably going to include your emails.
Yes, and your stuff.
Now, does that mean
for their case against the government employee?
Right, and now I will tell you this: it is somebody will say, "Well, Carrie, what if in the course of going through the information, the emails, let's say, of this reporter, they find evidence of illegal activity not related to the case that they're after?"
You're protected by the Fourth Amendment.
Well, my thing is we will report at Smith Radio. I will anyway. I don't know about Brian. I'm not going to speak for Brian, but I will hardcore come out against going after illegal activity obtained through a warrant, going after a source that did break the law. For instance, let's say that Watkins reported that, or has a source that Brian, he gave all of his sensitive information to her. She's been reporting on that, and they go after Watkins through, or I'm sorry, they go after who?
Yeah, Watkins. Watkins, the reporter.
No,
Wolf.
Wolf. So they're going after Wolf, and through Watkins, they find out, another source is Brian. What? You gotta be kidding me! And then they go after Brian. I'm not cool with that, and I would definitely.
I'm not mad about it.
Yeah, I mean it's a little. I'd be a little bit worried about going down that road.
Right. So Cheryl Atkinson, former CBS News investigative reporter, decided to offer her 2 cents in the light of the recent revelations that former Trump campaign Paul Manafort was indeed wiretapped before and after 2016 election. Why am I bringing up her? Because that's who was going against and exposing Obama, and that's who Obama was going after. Cheryl Watkins had a problem with CBS and the bosses at CBS because they didn't like what she was doing and how she was doing her investigative reporting on the dirty deeds that were going down with the Obama administration. And so Fake Jake is trying to attach her being spied on by Obama as Trump doing the exact same thing to this reporter.
I don't think that's the case, is it?
No, two completely different animals.
So what happened with this woman, with Obama?
Well, she was doing a really deep investigative report on everything that was going on with the spying, with the she even wrote this. She was writing about the wiretaps on Congressman Dennis Kucinich in Ohio in 2011 under Obama, and the same happened under President George. Oh, okay, that's her whole article. But she was exposing all of this. She's doing her deep reporting and exposing it all.
And so Obama, being the person that he is, IRS scandal and all this kind of stuff.
Got to shut this down.
Yeah, decided since he doesn't like that, he's allowed to use the full power of all the departments of government in order to violate whatever rights that he needs to. And he actually said that in one of his books, at least one of his books or one of his writings or speeches, that the Bill of Rights is a list of negative rights that tells the government what it can't do, and we should come out with a list of things that the government can do to you. And so he just acted that out in his presidency by doing to you what he wanted to do to you. And in this case, breaking all kinds of her rights and going through. Now that's not what Trump has done here.
No, and she even talked about, I remember this, she talked about the software used by the Federal Intel Agency that deployed a keystroke monitoring program, accessed the CBS News corporate computer system.
Yeah, that's a little scary.
That's completely different than this.
Right. That's like if you were typing in something like, I'm going to murder him. Wait, no, backspace, delete all that, delete. I'm going to really be mad at him. Well, even though you never sent the email out that says, I'm going to murder him, because you deleted that before you sent it, they got all the keystrokes, including the first draft, the deletions, and the second part that you wrote in and sent. So they can then use your original thought that you decided not to say against you.
Right.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, that's real scary. So just real quick, kind of wrapping all this up. This is coming out. This is going to be new. This is going to be something else they're going to talk about the rest of the week. This is going to be another part of this whole Russia investigation, and it's just falling apart at the wheels. And like you said, the failed coup. This is officially a failed coup. It's completely off the tracks. It's out of control. People are being taken in. Indictments are being handed out. And we're doing good, but we are. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. We are Donald Trump's legacy. New news media is Donald Trump's legacy. If you want to continue this,
Obama's legacy or Donald Trump's?
Donald Trump's.
Well, because we started during the Obama administration. But you're right. Most of the new media popped up in their excitement of Trump announcing his presidency.
And,
so you're right.
And his legacy will continue with the exposing of all the bad things and bringing you the real deal here with new news media. And if you want to be a part of that, right there at the bottom of the screen, patreon.com/Smith Radio. You can be a part of our special Patreon group. There's also T-shirts and stuff, the calendars, whatever. You go to patreon.com/Smith Radio, and you can see all the goodies.
We have a collection of really smart people there, and the discussions are very high level. I'm actually more interested in going to that group than anywhere else on the internet as far as like Twitter, and I have some other groups that I'm involved in when we chit-chat back and forth. But some of the discussions are the best in our Patreon group, which is really cool.
And you don't have to worry about no trolls because we're all family.
That's a shocker. I thought for sure,
I was worried.
Yeah, I was like, wow, we're gonna have them all in one place, and they're gonna be discussing and debating
just like the choo-choo train that was free in either Dallas or Houston. They got a choo-choo train like we did in Cincinnati.
Ours is like $1, which saves a lot of problems.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because they were free at once. They had a riding capacity of like 3,000, 4,000 a week.
Okay.
It was homeless people setting up shop in the choo-choo train
with like a tent and a partition and a shower.
Yep. And so they started charging $1, and it went from 3,000 a week to like 3. And nobody rides those things.
By the way, Cincinnati's they're finding out the hard way that nobody's riding those things.
Right. Okay, real quick, the Obama-Iran thing, just real fast, to just run right through it real quick because we got a lot of other things still to get to. Okay, come to find out, Obama said that Iran, in the nuclear deal, they will not have access to banks nor their money, and they can't get it out. And no access to American money, American banks. All his people said the same thing. The whole thing, when the deal goes down, it's going to be that way. Well, Iran said, hey, Obama, we ain't going down with this deal because we cannot get our money in our bank in our country. We cannot get it out of our bank. We need to get it out of our bank.
Right.
Because businesses aren't coming here and nobody trusts our money. They don't even trust us.
About right. I mean, sounds about right.
So we need to exchange our money for dollars or euros or something to get different currency. And so Obama's guys got together and said, okay, all right, your bank needs a special license to do business with banks in America. Once you get your money here in America, you convert it to dollar bills, y'all, and then you go and buy euros in a euro.
Okay.
And then you can continue your reign of terror with euros.
Okay.
Because nobody will take your money.
So it ended up being a money laundering scandal that Obama set up for Iran.
Yes.
Wow.
And
it kind of makes you wonder. I need somebody to tell me how Obama was not the enemy within, as Trevor Loudon told us.
Well, Trevor Loudon would absolutely say he is. Absolutely. He is
flat
the enemy
out.
within.
Oh, yeah. He would tell you flat out.
And
make the case.
So Obama's guys got that bank the special license they needed to do business and transact money to American companies or American banks. It came down to 2 American banks. In both banks, hell no. We can't do what?
I'm actually surprised Obama said, you can go ahead and do it. I'm giving you the green light.
They said
we're not going to get you in trouble.
They said if this came to light, we wouldn't be able to handle the fallout.
Wow. What? That's a big statement. Even with the blessings of the President of the United States, we can't do this.
No.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's the whole thing wrapped up in a nutshell. Where that goes, nobody knows. However, Donald Trump tweeted out, the Obama administration is now accused of trying to give Iran secret access to the financial systems of the United States. This is totally illegal.
Right.
Perhaps we could get the 13 angry Democrats to divert some of their energy to this matter, as Comey would call it, investigate.
Wow. Dude. Comey's never getting a free pass ever again.
No.
And rightfully so. He should not. But wow. So
Jake Tapper didn't talk about this, by the way. He didn't.
Of course not.
Of
course not. That's a huge scandal that is just now. That's one of the only scandals I know of that is an Obama scandal. That I know we have the Iran scandal.
Right.
But that particular part of it is just now broke this week. And I wonder, it makes you wonder, how long has it been since, it's been well over a year since Obama left office.
506 days since Trump has been president.
So I'm wondering, how many more scandals are going to be uncovered that were directly a part of the Obama presidency in the years to come? It kind of makes you wonder, well, you know how when JFK, the Cuban Missile Crisis, all the stuff, his entire presidency, a lot of stuff, almost everything that was in his offices were all recorded.
Right.
All that stuff remained secret for over 50 years, and then it came out, I think, 40 years. And then around 2000, they released all of those recordings, and then everybody gets to learn about it. I wonder if 50 years or 40 years from now, when they release all of the records that are supposed to remain classified for an entire generation under the Obama administration, is going to reveal a bunch of new scandals.
It's going to be wretched.
Oh my gosh, this stuff was happening?
You cannot at this point in time, you cannot hate Trump as much as you probably hate Obama. It's not possible.
Well, if you're a patriotic American, you got to hate, right?
If you're a Democrat, I mean, that's in,
no. I mean,
Oh,
Obama. Obama.
Well,
yeah. You're a patriotic American. This has got to disgust you.
Yes,
got to disgust you.
Yes, you've got to be frustrated. So let's talk about what's going on. That's great.
Yes, let's do that.
My Donald Trump and the G7 summit. Donald Trump said, this was by the White House. White House said, President Trump will depart G7 summit at wherever that is, Charlevoix.
Oh, you can't speak the French vernacular.
Yeah, I ain't no French.
I think it's Charlevoix.
Charlevoix. At 10:30 a.m. Saturday, following the session on women's empowerment, and we'll skip the global warming summit.
Good for you. Good for you. That is my representative in our great republic.
Right. And so now Donald Trump, along with
somebody,
his compatriots, his guys, Donald Trump with his guys, spent time there, 2 full days there in the summit, working out and hashing out deals. And after the deals were hashed out, and Donald Trump put out the Communique. The Communique. It's a French Latin word based on giving information usually to media.
Okay.
Media.
All right.
The Communique. And this is exactly what the Communique says from Donald Trump. We acknowledge that free and fair and mutually beneficial trade and investment, while creating reciprocal benefits, are the key engines for growth and job creation. We strive to reduce tariffs, barriers, non-tariff barriers, and subsidies. We call for the start of negotiations this year to develop stronger international rules on market-distorting industries, subsidies, and trade-distorting actions by state-owned enterprises or state-owned businesses. President Donald Trump's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, says Trump pulled out of that. Trump put that down. That's the communique. We're going to do this. Trump pulled out of that and said, nope, I'm out. And you're like, what? You're out? Yep. Justin Trudeau, soy boy. And he got a little goofy. And Carrie, you mentioned something about the phone call. I guess there was a phone call with Trump.
Oh, that was several days ago where he basically they got a little testy and he
on the phone.
Got a little testy with Justin Trudeau. We're calling him Trudy now, which is short for Gertrude because he's a soy boy.
Yes.
It prompted Donald Trump to say, "Hey, didn't you guys burn down the White House in the War of 1812?"
And fake Jake Tapper said, apparently Trump doesn't know that that was the Brits that burned down the White House.
They're getting into the weeds of the details.
They want to make fun of Trump, and
right.
Folks, this is one of those instances where I swear to you and all that is holy, Donald Trump really is that smart.
Well, he knows his history.
Because I didn't. Well, he went to the academy. I'm sure he had to learn a lot of military history in the academy. That's
right. Probably
where he learned it.
I would say that Trump always surprises when he throws out a historical thing. So the question is that fake news? Is that improper understanding of the history? Is it
because we were always told?
incorrect?
I was always told that the White House standing there right now is not the original and was burned down by the British troops.
It's the original. They had to fix all the damage. It was a lot of damage in the inside. It was like gutted out, but it is the original, like the stone.
Well, the stones are, but I mean, like
Right.
the inside.
Yeah,
of
there was
the
a lot
building.
of damage.
Yeah,
a lot of damage to the inside. So, there.
So, what's the history on that, Kerry? You were reading.
I was reading into it because I wanted to do a little brushing up. The War of 1812 was, we as Americans look at it as a war between Great Britain and America. Some people have referred to it as Great Britain being upset that they lost the revolution and they just wanted to give us one good punch in the mouth before they left.
Salty dogs.
But that's almost a generation later. I mean, the revolution, what was it? The Declaration of Independence was written in 1776. Imagine, fast forward that 200 years, you have, that would be like the difference between 1976 and 2012.
37 years, yeah.
That's like a whole generation. That would be like a whole bunch of people that weren't even born yet in the Declaration of Independence are now almost 40.
Yeah, because in 2012, I already had 2 kids, a married wife, and a car. I've settled down. I'm moving on.
Right. So this is quite a bit different. But it turns out, every context matters, and the War of of 1812 was more of a part of the Napoleonic Wars,
right?
Which was, we know all the battles that were happening between France and England while Napoleon was emperor. And it was like, Napoleon was the Hitler of the day. He was trying to take over all of Europe, and everybody was trying to cast him as evil. He had actually rose to power from the French Revolution, which everybody's getting beheaded and all this kind of stuff. But
so Canada was not Canada.
It wasn't a country yet, but Canada had ended up becoming a country, but it was part of. Canada was largely populated by people who were in the 13 colonies that fled because they were loyal to the British Crown, and they didn't want to have nothing to do with the Revolution. But they certainly these are the descendants of those people when they declared independence or whatever. I don't even know if they declared independence. It's more like kind of given away. Then so I guess you could kind of call it that.
So Canada was British.
Yeah.
It was Britain. It was owned by British settlement. I mean, it was British colony.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely applaud Trump for saying that. That's hysterical because now it'll be one more thing the mainstream media will force us to look up because they're saying he's a liar. Yeah. And we'll be forced to look up and come to find out when you look into it, no, it's one of those sleight of hands that they had no idea of.
Yeah, I would say that if you're a Canadian, you're allowed to, I don't know. I will tell you there's a little hypocrisy here. So they're trying to say, well, Canada wasn't even a country yet. How are you going to blame Canada for the War of 1812 or burning down the White House or whatever you want to say about the War of 1812 on a country that didn't even exist yet? Well, don't they do that with slavery? Because now I know slavery existed while America was a country.
But they say America's slavery.
Right.
Which it wasn't our slavery.
No, we were stuck with it because thanks to the Great Britain. Great Britain started the slavery that we ended up inheriting when it went from being British colonies to the United States of America. We had to fight hard. In fact, we almost abolished it from day one if it wasn't for the fact that there were a couple of representatives from southern states or colonies at the time that objected to it, and so we had to revisit it at another time. Unfortunately, it was 100 years later, but why is it that America gets blamed for slavery and yet Canada doesn't get to be blamed for burning down the White House?
I think they very well should.
I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy
So
there.
Larry Kudlow, if you do not know Larry Kudlow is probably the greatest capitalist free market thinker out there, known for his free market thinking and kind of like the Reaganomics, if you will, all of that, and he really knows his stuff. I mean, you want to talk about the best of the best. Larry Kudlow is absolutely that. Donald Trump tapping him just recently because he had to get rid of, what did Trump call him? He didn't call him a deep state. He called him a...
Somebody could just...
Yeah, Donald Trump made fun of the other guy he got rid of, replaced him with Larry Kudlow, which was one of the greatest picks he's made yet, next to John Bolton. And... I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Michael Bolton?
Yeah, I played that Pirates of the Caribbean again for my millennial this week.
Oh, gosh.
So here's Larry Kudlow hashing it out with Jake Tapper. And listen to what he's saying and how he details. He tells you about the work that he's been doing, the work that went on in the G7 summit, and the things that happened, and how he talks about Donald Trump.
Let's start with this unprecedented decision from the president to not endorse the communique that you had been negotiating. Was this the plan all along, or was this completely a reaction to Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister?
Was this the plan all along to get Justin Trudeau to agree to the communique and then flip on him?
Okay.
Damn it, Jake, you're such an idiot.
Completely a reaction. I appreciate you putting that out there. Look.
And he said, yeah, it was completely a reaction to Trudeau. Thank you for putting that out there. Ah, man.
We went there. All the punditry was saying, A, President Trump might not even go to G7. B, we'll never sign a communique because, C, we're not going to work with other people. Well, we did, in good faith. I personally negotiated with Prime Minister Trudeau, who, by the way, I basically liked working with, but not until this sophomoric play. I mean, we went through it. We agreed. We compromised on the communique. We joined the communique in good faith.
But what did he say that was so offensive? President Trump accused him of lying.
Well, he held a press conference, and he said the U.S. is insulting. He said that Canada has to stand up for itself. He says that we are the problem with tariffs. What the non-factual part of this was they have enormous tariffs. I mean, they have tariffs on certain dairy and food products of a 295%. He was polarizing.
Real quick, real quick. I want to just, I'm a math guy, so I want to point this out. A 290%, let's just round it to 300 because it's essentially 300.
Yeah, okay.
Would be like saying that we're going to sell you a gallon of milk, because we're talking about dairy products, right?
Right, and if you go to Aldi, you can get a gallon of milk for $1.
All right, so let's say that just for simplicity, let's just say that we're getting we're selling our milk to them for $1.
Yes.
It will then cost a Canadian
in Canada
$4 in dollars,
right?
Because the $1 would pay, and now that doesn't include any markups that any middlemen would put in there. So, for instance, just for simplicity, generally a middleman will mark it up anywhere from 30 to 100%. Let's just go simple and say 100%. So, if we sell Canada milk for $1, the vendor will have to earn $1 from that. So that's $2. But the tariff that Canada puts on it would mean that the vendor would have to pay $4 for that. And then if they're going to make 100% markup, it'd be $8. And so we get $1 for that milk that we sent to Canada. Canada gets $3 and then forces the vendor to have to sell it for $8 just to make enough money to put food on the table. And so what ends up happening is Canada doesn't sell any American milk. Canada sells only Canadian milk.
Because nobody would buy it for $8 from America when you can get it Canadian for $1.
Or for $2 or whatever.
Yeah,
so what it boils down to is it makes the dairy farmers in America struggle because they can't sell dairy to Canada because of these tariffs. Right. So that is a real-world example of what's going on here.
Here's the thing. I mean, he really kind of stabbed us in the back. He really actually, you know what? He did a great disservice to the whole G7. He betrayed...
Trudeau did.
Yes, he did, because they were united in the G7. They came together. And I was there extensively. I was involved in these late-night negotiations. President Trump was charming, good faith. I was in the bilateral meeting with Trudeau, and President Trump, and they were getting along famously. President Trump actually, and this is music to my ears, Jake, he went through those 2 days of conference talking about the need for a new free trade system, no tariffs, no tariff barriers,
no subsidies.
No subsidies. He is a trade reformer, as I have argued again and again, and he put that out. And so they have this bilateral meeting. We were very close to making a deal with Canada on NAFTA, bilaterally perhaps, and then we leave and Trudeau pulls this sophomoric political stump for domestic consumption.
Wow. So basically, by the way, bilateral, so there's G7, there's 7 different countries there with a lot of representatives from each. Bilateral means that Trump and Trudeau were in a closed meeting with no other representatives from other states. He's saying he was in there, inside the room with the bilateral meeting, and so there were no other country representatives there. So they were basically making deals just amongst each other, and he said that they were getting along famously.
Yes,
and now we know that was Trudeau being fake. And why was he being fake? I got a theory.
Okay,
I think he was being fake because there was urine going down his leg. I think he had defecated himself already.
He was scared.
He was scared to death.
S-less.
Soy was dribbling down his leg. And I think he needed to wait. I heard that he did not wait until after the meeting. In fact, he waited until Trump had left the entire summit.
He was in the aircraft. He had flown out of the aircraft.
So he was on the phone with his people, the airport.
Yeah.
Is he gone yet? Are you sure? Are you sure he's gone? Because I don't know. He might come back. Are you sure he won't circle back?
Yeah, he's totally gone. Absolutely.
I don't believe you.
Okay, well, I'll call you back in 10
Oh, God,
minutes.
I just navigated myself.
You got to stop doing that. Man.
But I can't. I can't stop. Are you sure he's not? I want you to send me a picture of the plane leaving because I don't trust you.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so right after Larry said, he did this for optics, for the purposes. I cut this part out because I thought it was not unimportant, but then Jake goes back and forth and argues with Larry Kudlow that Trump does the same thing for domestic consumption. And he's trying to say that
I'd
Trump...
like to hear that because I don't really disagree with that.
No, I don't either. Trump does it for domestic consumption. Trudeau did it for domestic consumption. He did it in a very spiteful, dirty, wrong way for domestic consumption. Trump does it in a positive way for domestic consumption.
I got to let everybody in on some inside information.
Okay.
In general, not anything specific, but in general, when you need to say something for public consumption that may be taken the wrong way by the leader of whatever country that you may be talking about, or any country, you tell them in the meeting. And I'll give you an example. When JFK was negotiating with Nikita Khrushchev, as to pulling nuclear weapons out of Cuba. The deal was made that America would pull their nukes out of Turkey because they didn't like that there were nukes in Turkey because essentially it did the same thing to Russia or USSR that putting nukes in Cuba did to us. However, we needed the world to never know that we did this, particularly that we did it because we had the gun faced to our temple.
Right.
So what was said was, this was actually said in the negotiation, we will pull out our missiles in Turkey, but we can't do it until 6 months. But you'll get our assurance now. We're going to pull out these nukes out of Turkey, but not for 6 months. And you are not allowed to say that we did it for that reason. And if you do, we will deny that that deal was ever made, and we will not pull them out. That was the deal. So this was discussed in the deal. If Trudeau needed to say what he said for public consumption, He needed to warn Trump. He needed to say, now, okay, I'll agree to everything that you're saying. And never mind that smell. I didn't just defecate myself.
I just douched myself once again.
I just douched myself. But I need to tell my communist people in Canada X, Y, and Z.
Don't worry, I don't really mean it.
I don't really mean it, but I need to say it for public consumption. So that's what you're going to hear me say. But don't you make no never mind, because I'm just lying to my peoples.
Right.
Because I need to agree with what you're saying, because I'm scared that you're going to punch me in the face if I don't. And that's literally what should have happened. Right?
Yes. Donald Trump would use a wind maker on him, where he would literally punch right through his chest to make it's a window maker, and put a window, like literally open his chest up with his fist. It would go right through and make.
There's actually a scene from Friday the 13th Part 6.
Oh wow!
Where he punches through a guy's stomach and grabs his stomach on the other side, and then he pulls it out. And
now that's a widow maker. This one is called a window maker.
Well, I'm sure you
make a window.
Jason made a window. He did. He pulled that stomach right out. Well, kind of odd though. The guy fell over dead right then and there. But if you actually were able to do that,
it would
take like a week maybe. Infection would
set in.
Take one. Well, probably starve to death.
Digress. Digress. Okay, here's the rest of that.
Hey, you're the one talking about punching a window in somebody's chest.
Well, you talking about Trump hitting Trudeau.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no. I'm not talking about Trump punching Trudeau.
Oh, Trudeau was worried about that.
Yes.
Okay. Soy boy just got real nervous. Okay, and here's the rest of Kudlow.
That is what President Trump believes in.
Yes.
Why walk away from it just because of something Justin Trudeau said for domestic consumption?
Not something.
Okay, now here's where he lays it out. Why did you walk? Oh, why would you just walk away? Who cares about what Trudeau says?
Look, yes, for domestic blue consumption, but it was a global state. The whole world listened to what he said. Right. Look, you're reporting it here in Washington, as you must. I get that. You just don't behave that way, okay? It's a betrayal, okay? Essentially double-crossing. Not just double-crossing President Trump, but the other members of the G7 who were working together and pulling together this communique. You know, you never get everything you want. There are compromises along the way. President Trump played that process in good faith. So I ask you, he gets up in the airplane and leaves, and then Trudeau starts blasting them in a domestic news conference. I'm sorry. It is a betrayal. That is a double cross. It pains me because I like Trudeau. I was working with him. We were together putting words on paper. I'm changing thes to a's when it comes to reforming the international system.
So listen to his voice, how frustrated he is with how much work he went through. And Trudeau's just pissed it away.
Because he's a little boy that has no maturity. And this is what happens when you put a young, inexperienced little boy in charge of an entire state. Real quick, I know you want to finish this, but this is a perfect time to point this out. What he's saying, based on my analogy that I gave you with the JFK versus Nikita Khrushchev negotiations, would be like as soon as they were done with that deal, Nikita Khrushchev going around publicly on TV saying, we got them to remove their nukes from Turkey. Ha, ha, ha.
Right.
We won. You lost. You guys are a bunch of cowards.
And they would scream like that, too.
Well, that would be a deal breaker.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
They all agreed. This is so important. They all agreed.
So why walk away from the agreement? That's what I don't understand.
Well, then ask Mr. Trudeau that. That's the question.
But he didn't walk away from the agreement.
Don't blame Trump. It was Trudeau who started blasting Trump after he left, after the deals had been made. And one last point on this. Yeah. POTUS is going to Korea, now Singapore, to negotiate with the North Koreans. This is an historic event.
That's a good point.
Good things, wonderful things could come out of it.
We all hope so. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you.
No,
now,
he doesn't.
POTUS is not going to let a Canadian prime minister push him, POTUS, around President Trump on the eve of this. He is not going to permit any show of weakness on the trip to negotiate with North Korea, nor should he.
So this was about North Korea?
Of course it was, in large part.
So because Trudeau said that as Trump was going to Singapore.
Well, one thing leads to another.
Oh, I see.
They are all.
How is he acting dumb here? Why is Jake Fake Tapper acting dumb here? Of course you have to react that way on the eve of going to go meet with Kim Jong-un. Duh!
World peace is about to happen, and you think that Donald Trump is going to let cuckboy Trudeau just
walk all over him and make him embarrass him.
This is what Obama would take. Obama would accept Trudeau and say, sorry, buddy, you're right.
This is a message to the world that if you're a young whippersnapper in charge of a state, which Kim Jong-un is,
or Macron,
if you're a young whippersnapper, you better act in good faith. You better act mature. Don't act like a little soy boy. Don't act like you got a little temper tantrum and mommy didn't let you have extra milk before bedtime.
Right.
And that way, it will get Kim Jong-un to think twice about acting like that. Because it's very possible that this could be a great deal, great negotiation, great things will come of it. He goes flying out of there. And he goes, I got the better of Trump. He's a little punk, and I got him. Blah blah blah. He could very well do that.
I tell you what, you just cooked you cooked your turkey there, Trudeau. Dude, you messed up.
Yeah, he basically made an example out of him.
Oh, and if you put yourself out there to be made an example of, Trump will do that.
Right, and that was a perfect answer by Kudlow, because Jake Tapper was saying, well, wait a minute, the deal was made. Everybody agreed on it. There's a lot at stake here. There's a lot of moving parts, and they're all hammered down. And you're saying that because little cuck boy acted like a little immature little punk, that you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's what he was trying to corner Kudlow on. And he said, well, let me tell you this. We're about to go to North Korea and have, or I should say Singapore, to have this big negotiation with Kim Jong-un, who's probably about the same maturity level as Trudeau. We need to hammer this down and not let the negotiations go down in bad faith.
So Trump dropped the ball on Kim because Kim wouldn't pick up the phone. Kim begged to come back to the table. Anytime, anywhere, you tell me, I'll meet you, I promise, and we will answer the phone from now on.
Yeah.
The summit's back on for North Korea. Trudeau acts like a total douche. I mean, just a total immature.
Just very immature.
He says sophomoric, which in their world is it's a pretty big insult. But he's acting like a complete child, and you saw what Trump just did to Kim. You think you're going to get away with that? He's getting ready to meet Kim again.
Yeah, Jake is making the argument that that you could make against Trump for canceling the North Korea meetings. Like, what? Nothing happened, and all of a sudden he just cancels a meeting? I mean, you were going to have a meeting, and now all of a sudden you cancel it, and you're the one that canceled. It wasn't Kim. Why would you do that? I don't think that's very smart on Trump's
And they actually did go down that way originally when Trump canceled the meeting.
They did. So, you know what? It boils down to this. Jake Tapper doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and he needs to just shut up and listen.
Right, and you can see Kudlow running circles around him.
Yeah.
So there's 50 seconds left.
All related. We had done our work in Quebec, north of Quebec. We did our work. We worked with the Western Alliance, pleased to do so. We get on the plane, and then this guy, Trudeau, starts blasting us.
So what's key here?
Kim must not see American weakness. It's that short. And you know, Jake, you've covered the beef for so long. How many times has President Trump said, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back, okay?
Right.
And this is a case where Trudeau, it was like, I don't know, pouring collateral damage on this whole Korean trip. That was a part of Trudeau's mistake. Trudeau made an error. He should take it back. He should pull back on his statements and wish President Trump well in the Korean negotiations. So, these other members did. Angela Merkel did. Macron did. I was right there. Theresa May did.
Okay, so
and all of a sudden, he went rogue.
And all of a sudden, he went rogue. He said everybody at the G7 summit, everybody was down with us, and so was Trudeau, and he went rogue.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying to score cheap political points, and he doesn't realize that everything he does has consequences. It's like, moving your arms around in the pool. It moves the water around. It causes currents, and everything's affected. Everything.
Right.
It's like you can't. A butterfly can't flap its wings in Minnesota and not cause a tornado in Oklahoma or something. Right. I mean, seriously, I mean that's what people talk about when it comes to weather.
Right.
And meanwhile, we have total control over the climate.
Absolutely. In case you didn't know, Donald Trump tweeted out, based on Justin's false statements at his news conference and the fact that Canada is charging massive tariffs on our U.S. farmers, workers, and companies, I've instructed our U.S. representative not to endorse the communique as we look at tariffs on automobiles flooding the U.S. market.
I'm kind of confused by that statement at the end where it says tariffs on automobiles flooding the U.S. market. He's talking about the tariffs flooding the U.S. market or automobiles? Because I was like, we don't buy Canadian automobiles. What are you talking about there? Not to endorse the communique as we look at tariffs on automobiles. Okay, so he's talking about tariffs. When I first read that, I was like, Canada doesn't make it. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Is anybody driving around in a Canadian automobile? But yeah, if we're sending automobiles to Canada,
right,
we're getting flooded with tariffs.
Right.
Which is the same as saying that money from America is flooding into Canada. And interesting, one of our very, very intelligent Patreon patrons, good friend of ours, talked about how the tariffs that are charged to the U.S. by Canada ends up funding their socialism.
Yes,
in particular.
We're paying for social. We're paying to allow socialism to flourish in Canada.
Yeah, because the amount of money that ends up flooding like a tsunami, a nonstop. It's just nonstop tsunami into Canada of money. It takes a unlimited source of income for socialism to even remotely come close to working, and even then, it doesn't really work. I should say to prevent it from failing.
Right.
That's the only way socialism does not completely collapse is you need an unlimited source of income.
Right.
And so it's going to be interesting in the coming years, I guess, as the tap gets turned off. So what happens to socialized medicine and all the other crazy social programs that can only happen with the unlimited source of income that is Canadian tariffs on American goods and services?
Well, as one of our listeners, Vesey, just text on the text board, do we cut them off like Cuba, or do we keep the relationship? Well, Vesey, I'm honestly going to say it's going to be up to Justin Trudeau. Because as it is right now, it's just the cold shoulder from Trump. I doubt that nothing's going to be renegotiated. I mean, that's for sure.
You don't cut them off like Cuba, but you basically put 300% tariffs on every single good and service coming to Canada.
Right.
I mean,
that would slow the money flow back to them.
Right. But you just make it impossible for them to do business with us, and that's how you do it.
Right. And this is a clip that Sam sent us earlier. Or he sent a link to this clip of Donald Trump speaking. It's 1 minute and 22 seconds, and you said that was a great length of time, right? It was just
it's great. Yeah, because if it was another second longer, all the millennials would be like, what?
I didn't get that way. I got so fired up listening to this.
Let me set up the clip real quick. So everybody, a lot of conservatives are out there running around saying, we need free trade, free trade, free trade. And even Trump has said, I'd like to have just total free trade and none of this unfair trade. And some people saying fair trade, free trade. So what is the difference? What is everybody's definitions? I believe a lot of conservatives are out there running around clamoring for free trade, not really understanding what that really means. Now, when you think of free market capitalism, that's kind of like the individuals within a country. So if Brian wants to start a business, there should be free trade between whatever he tries to build and to everybody else in the country. But when it comes to like international trade between nations, it was pointed out to me by Sam also that there's no such thing as free trade as long as there's tariffs in place. And in fact, total free trade between nations actually kind of eliminates the whole idea of nations. And
I would agree. I would agree 100%.
So I was wondering if anybody would explain it. And Trump actually did at one point. I think this was, back in February or April or March or something like that. This was late winter where he said this, and we got the clip.
We're one of the only countries in the world that people can sell their product into us and have no tax, no nothing, and they get rich. And yet if you want to do business with them, you'll have taxes I've seen as high as 100%. So they sell into us, no problem. We sell into them because we don't sell in because the tax is so high that they don't want us to sell into them. So I know that's always been a point of contention, but to me, it's just fair. It's just fair. It's reciprocal. It's fair. And so we're going to be doing a lot of work on that, and that's becoming a very, very important factor, fairness. Because I believe in free trade. I want so much trade. You know, somebody said, oh, maybe he's a total nationalist, which I am in a true sense. But I want trade. I want great trade between countries. But the word free is very deceiving because it's good for them. It's not good for us. I want fair trade. And if we're going to be taxed, they should be taxed at the same amount,
right?
The other countries. And one of two things is going to happen. We're going to make a lot of money, or the other country is going to get rid of its tax. And that's good, too, because now the product, like Harley-Davidson, I was talking to them, the product will now flow into other countries where right now they can't do it.
Well, there you go. So basically, free trade refers to the actual cost of doing the trade between countries, which is, what they talk about when they say we want free trade. I don't think that a lot of conservatives who say we should have free trade really understand what they're talking about. But I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I would definitely like to hear if somebody says free trade, we need free trade. My first question is well, can you explain what you mean by free trade? I think that tariffs are okay. They just shouldn't be too high. And if it's between countries, they should have similar tariffs. So if a country wants to charge 300% tariff on every product that we try to sell to them from America, then every product they try to sell to our people should get taxed 300%. Now, some people are like, but I don't want to pay that much. Well, you'll get it from another country, like dairy products.
Right.
Either you produce it yourself, and that's anher thing.
If it's cheaper to produce it yourself, you won't even take their stuff.
Right. Obama tried to argue that how's Trump going to get manufacturing going? We're just going to have to understand.
Magic?
You get a magic wand? You got a magic wand to start America starts producing stuff? Well, actually, if it becomes cheaper to produce it in America, it'll be produced in America, and there's your jobs right there. And so we just tax the hell out of whatever country is being unfair to us through tariffs, so they can't sell their products to us anymore. And then what happens is that Americans will be like, well, gosh, if I start up a business that produces this product, I'll be able to sell it in America because it's so expensive coming from, let's say, China.
Right.
So China's sending us all their cheap crap trinkets, toys. Every single toy on Earth, or I should say in America, is made in China. Well, that's probably because we don't charge a single tariff on those toys. And so they're mass producing it with child labor and slave labor and whatnot, cheap, really, really cheap labor. And then they bring it over here. And we buy all this cheap stuff. We introduce a tariff on that stuff, and next thing you know, toys get more expensive, and we're kind of like, whoa, hey, I don't know about all this expensive toy stuff. Meanwhile, American entrepreneurs will be like, wow, I could actually open up a factory here and sell toys made in America cheaper than China's bringing it over here. And that's how it works.
And that would be awesome. So real quick, as we're rounding out the show, we're almost over. I wanted to get to this.
Wow, we are.
This is the Democrat Party. This is the Democrat Party, folks. This is Nancy Pelosi losing her mind because Donald Trump is actually making America great again. The economy rip-roaring, the unemployment rip-roaring. I mean, the lowest unemployment we're talking since 1969. And
that's awesome.
Through the roof.
It's unbelievable, actually. Unbelievable.
Hip, hip, hooray, unemployment is down. What does that mean?
She's so angry.
In my life? I need a bigger paycheck. And that's the apprehension that American families have had. The economy will never fully reach its possibilities unless we increase the consumer confidence.
What?
Nancy Pelosi talking about consumer confidence and downplaying the success of the economy under President Trump, but the numbers don't lie, with a new Fox News poll showing 52% approve of Donald Trump's economy. Grover Norquist is the
This is a
president
win
of
in
Americans for
2020
Tax
right
Reform.
there.
He joins us right now. Grover, I don't know, apparently she's not an economist, because currently unemployment is near a 50-year low, and she said, we really need better consumer confidence. It is at an 18-year high. Right now it's at 128, they tell us.
She's running out of excuses. Remember, Americans for Tax Reform listed all of the bonuses and pay increases and benefit increases that many companies were rolling out in December, January, and she called that crumbs. These are, $1,000 bonuses.
Sure. This is going to blow your mind, this information he lays out. Listen, it's going to blow your mind with the numbers.
Walmart gave $5,000 for an adoption cost as part of their benefit packages. People got more 401k, more IRA pension money put up. She poo-pooed that. Now she's belittling lower unemployment, historically low unemployment, increasing wages.
Right.
She wants a wage increase. She wants to be speaker. The disappointment in her voice is she's never going to be speaker now because the economy is growing as strong as it is.
Yeah, and don't the Democrats just look tone deaf when they talk like that?
Well, it's never a good idea to badmouth the American people or to poo-poo their successes.
Hip, hip, hooray.
Americans are creating these jobs on their own, by the way. They don't fall out of trees. They're going out and going to work and creating jobs and opportunities.
That's very important to understand. Donald Trump is just making a playing field that businesses can thrive.
New businesses, small businesses starting up. This is extremely helpful. It's part deregulation. It's a lot the tax cut.
And speaking of the tax cuts, you have been on this program for the last over a year talking about them, and now there's a hidden bonus, and that is 101 utilities, electric utilities, have cut their rates because they're paying lower taxes. That's going to impact everybody who gets their juice from those companies.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the list of those at atr.org on our website. It's 100 million American households and small businesses. 100 million American households and small businesses will have lower utility rates. Why? Because utilities pay taxes just like any other business. When we cut
Duke
the tax
Energy
rate
from
on
Ohio.
businesses,
There you go.
$3 billion that flows straight to all your listeners, everybody who has water utility, electricity. The Democrats have announced if they get power, they will raise the business taxes again and increase your monthly utility bill every year.
And I've got a feeling the Republicans will remind that before folks go to vote in November.
Wow. I'm going to get a lower utility bill. Ohio's Duke Energy. That is awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited about that.
How can you not be excited? This is incredible, folks.
Real quick, I'm going to repeat. Bill Maher said we need the economy to crash. We need to root for the economy to crash in order to get rid of Donald Trump. And the reason is if we don't get rid of him, then the democracy's at stake. And I'm just like, what kind of false dichotomy is that? It's ridiculous.
Hey, stick around till right after the show. I'm going to play the ending credits. Stick around, and I got a really special video that you guys must see. If you're on Twitter, you probably saw it. I retweeted it out. It's Donald Trump as 007.
Oh, cool.
So very, very well done. I've never seen anything done this well before. All right, folks, share this with friends and family. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.
Well, it's 32 million. It's up to you, Mr. Bond.
32 million. I guess you did a good job. We did it together.
The last thing we want to do is escalate the situation.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business. A letter was given to me by Kim Jong-un, and that letter was a very nice letter. Oh, would you like to see what was in that letter?
Did it say anything else?
I haven't seen the letter yet. I purposely didn't open the letter. I haven't opened it. I didn't open it in front of the director.
Oh, grow up, 007.
Now, they were saying, what do you think President Trump had to do with it? I'll tell you what. Like, how about everything?
Christ, I miss the Cold War.
We're doing very well in terms of the summit with North Korea. I think people want to see if we can get the meeting and get something done. It's a getting to know you meeting plus. And that can be a very positive thing. Little Rocket Man. And it's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write.
I want full newspaper coverage. I want TV. I want radio. I want us on the air 24 hours a day.
The bloody hell's that?
You know who that is, right? That's called the fake news. Fake news.
We prefer not to get our bad news from CNN.
Fake news.
Thank you.
With great respect, a man like him could blow my cover.
By the way, you don't mind if I go off script a little bit, because, you know, it's sort of boring. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than me. It's a witch hunt. That's all it is. There was no collusion with Russia, if you can believe this one.
Good. I am invincible.
It's a little tough to watch too much, but I watched as much as I could. It was really fantastic. There's a big thing going on right now, which is spying. And to me, that's the big story. Doesn't look bad. Hey, we're hanging in. We're hanging in there, right? Together, we're hanging in.
You don't like me?
No.
You don't like my methods?
No.
Good. Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur.
Next question.